Welcome, everyone, to episode 4. Episode 4 already of OMI is my homie. We got a good show today. I'm really excited. There's been some pretty significant announcements with respect to OMI and Veve since the last episode. My apologies for not being able to make the last episode. I was really bummed to not be sharing the stage with Crypto Cosmo. I listened to it back, and obviously I was there in the chat for a little bit while I could be. But hey, so to kind of give a summary of what we're going to chat about today, and this is a very brief summary because we've got a lot that we'll probably cover that won't be in this summary. But to start out, obviously the most recent news, right, is OMI on base. Now, there was talk about an OMI liquidity pool on base beforehand, but now OMI has actually tweeted this out that they have a new base, which I love the little play on words there, and so they've made it official that they're going to be supporting that. So we're going to talk about that, and look, we're going to dive into any questions you guys have. I've seen a ton of questions in different Telegram groups that I'm in, on Twitter, about how do I swap from like ETH to base, like how do I do everything there, right? So even like the OMI that you have on your Veve wallet, we're going to get into that. So if you guys have questions, put that in the chat. We'll cover that. We're also going to be talking about the massive announcement with Veve and the collaboration with Blackpink, and the fact that Blackpink tweeted it out on their socials, which we really haven't seen from a lot of other partners with Veve. So that's huge. Crypto Wendio talking about Veve, potential partnership in the making there, politicians supporting crypto, and so much more, guys. I think this might be a pretty long stream. We'll see how it plays out. There's a lot to chat about. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on my host, the one and only Crypto Rain, and the other one and only Real Randy Chavez. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Did someone say long stream?
I love the blue steel there.
I'm so glad you got that reference.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. How you guys doing?
I feel like, you ever see the movie Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
No,
I've not seen that.
It's about Frankie Lyman, and it's a great movie. He had like 3 wives, and none of them knew about each other. It's great. Anyway, one of the people that they call into court is like Little Richie, and he comes in and he's like, "Oh, here I am, the motivator, the man that brings people together," and he's just full of energy. And I just feel like that right now because I just got done doing something awesome. How are y'all doing?
Fantastic.
I'm jazzed. You know, Rain's just chilling. I've got a lot of energy right now. I'm super excited. We've got, the people watching the stream already is jumping in numbers. That's a lot of fun. And it's fun. It's fun just to see the comments here. Appreciate everyone. Jason Pena, Beerman, Kroner, Bobby Green, Wes. I have to show Wes's thing. It's not easy to talk about OMI every week. You know, this is the thing, though. I mean, and this is something Rain talks about a lot, and I fully agree with. It's the best to talk about tokens when they're down. That's the time to be talking about them, right? Like, I mean, there's so much more risk when a token is pumping that it's going to continue to pump, right? And so, anyways, look, it's a project I am deeply passionate about and excited about, and we cover a lot of things on this, right? Not just OMI or the token, and that's one thing that we discussed. We're definitely going to be talking about other tokens on this channel as well, but the main focus being OMI, Veve, and all those things there. So, and look, I mean, it's funny. I don't hold any Chuck. I've definitely been keeping tabs on it because a lot of the Veve community in there is there, right? Dano is saying he's disappointed in the fam shilling Chuck to give him a hot potato and incentivize to get more users. So we'll talk. We can talk a little bit about that, right? And I mean, the whole kind of meme narrative that's just gone wild this cycle compared to other cycles. You know, there's a couple other tokens that's done that, but I've never seen this long, like sustained pump of different tokens there. Anyways, just want to give some shout outs before we really dive into this. What's up, Ed? Glad you could catch it live too, man. It's awesome. Omar, I met Omar in real life, and Randy, like, I know you have too. Wow, just such a classy individual, like so kind and genuine. Love it.
Omar's great. He'll come on the podcast when he's ready to tell his insane story about what happened. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I was like, bro, what? Like, I mean, crazy stuff. Appreciate you, Truckin' Hank. Black Vigil. Oh, didn't see the curse words. Oh, that's not my style there. Or like,
So maybe we should talk about that.
Curse, you know,
because Veve had just posted before that, just saying like, "Hey guys, we are a safe space. We have something that is supposed to be." I'll read the actual tweet for people to go in and digest. Saying, "Veve socials are a safe and respectful place for our community to share, explore, and enjoy our platform. We have zero tolerance for verbal abuse, harassment, hate speech, and or bullying towards our community members or staff. Together, let's keep this a positive space for all to enjoy." I do like that. For example, in gyms, like if you have like a gym that happens to have a boxing side or a boxing ring or whatever, if girls come into there and the boxing gym is right out front and people are getting their face kicked in or punched in, it's a little intimidating, and maybe, you know, some women or some meek guys really won't want to join. The same way that if you see, you know, some new people that are a little meek and kind of into crypto, hey, what's going on here? And then you just have some just like massive trolls or telling people to like unalive themselves. It's not a good look. They're not going to want to stay here. But on the opposite end of that, I really like free speech. And I know that there's a bunch of fudders everywhere that are just into making people feel bad about themselves. They're trying to bring themselves up by pulling others down. However, I have an idea. What if we were able to do like a roast? And I'll start it off with myself, is how much I believe in it. The roast of Randy Chavez, where people come in and just roast, and just because Veve now is officially like the safe space, they have zero tolerance policy, which I think is great for a bunch of reasons. But I feel like people got to get out that pent up energy, and they can direct that energy towards me. I think the better. What do y'all think about that? Good or bad idea?
I think you get that anyway when you go live. You get that roast. And some of it's the same people, and you're right, they're just frustrated, right? Like, look, a lot of people that get into this, they're excited about getting into it, but they don't understand investment cycles. So they're not prepared for how long it can feel like the market's down before it then goes up. And they decide that if only the team had done XYZ better, or 15 different things better, that it wouldn't be going through this pain. And so then they just complain. And then over time, what's cool is they get to learn some lessons about how the market turns around. And so either they're positioned well, even though they're complaining, and it turns around, they're like, oh my gosh, I did well anyway. Or they've sold out and they get to watch it happen, and then they just go on to complaining somewhere else. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out for a lot of people that are feeling frustrated now. Many of which I hope they still have their OMI tokens, because I think OMI is going to do really well.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, about the roast, Randy, I thought Rain hit it on the head. It was like, you get roasted, you know, like it's fun. People are going to troll, right? I think Wes already started it, right? With, uh-oh. Am I freezing up here? Here we go.
No, you're not freezing up. You're good.
Randy roasts himself every day by being Jim Cramer of crypto. Yeah, like, I mean, if you want to do that, I think that would draw attention. It's fun, and as long as it's good natured, right? Like, I think the whole point of it, you know, is the safe space is like you were talking about, kind of just this, like the viciousness of some of the comments and things like that, right? And it's just not needed, and it's unwarranted, and so they're going to stop that, you know. And I think they have to put. They have to stop that. Now, I want to address something, because I want to make something clear. Uno Sean, I really like Uno Sean. I had interactions with him. Am I freezing? What's going on? I feel like you guys are freezing a little bit.
I see you. Like, you're a little blurry, but I see you fine. Can you hear us?
Okay, you can hear me, but it's not showing when I'm clicking on people's comments. It's not.
Oh yeah, you're like this right now. But I can still hear you.
You might need to reset.
Happens every now and then. 1 out of 5. No, I'm joking. Never mind.
Dang technology. Dang. supposed to work perfectly. I mean, we're supposed to be able to talk from anywhere in the world and get on this with 0 failures. Oh, wait, Microsoft built half the technology we're using. Never mind.
Good times. All right. So while he's gone, Rain, first off, how are you?
Fantastic. You know, I'm really disappointed OMI came up a bunch because I moved around a bunch of funds and I went in to buy some OMI today and it's up like it's still really cheap, 0.006. So I bought some essentially at market price and I put in some buy orders, hoping it comes back down a little bit and we'll see. So,
I mean, technically we're only up about 0.6 on the day just because they made that announcement yesterday of OMI being on base. But there's still not a ton of volume, 275,000 volume over the last 24 hours. So probably still not a bad idea to get in right now if I were you, Rain. Not talking about anyone else. This is not financial advice. But yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about base. Let's talk about the announcement and all the things that go with it. Somebody had found this liquidity pool a couple weeks ago, and I did a video on it. A bunch of people did a video on it saying, like, oh, it's just another way of buying OMI. We had no idea that it was an official partnership of a OMI, and now it is. Foster Hill had 2 videos embedded in that article saying, hey, here's how to go and buy it. If I put in $10 on the Ethereum network, it costs like $9 in gas, but if I put in $10 in over on base, it costs like 60 cents. So there's just a big reason for people to go in and do it on base. Have you guys tried it yet?
No, I haven't. I've got some funds set aside to do that. But still just haven't. I mean, it's funny because right before the announcement, I'd actually just purchased a nice little chunk of OMI, and I was like I wish I could have. I mean, because then I spent the gas fees, right? And I was like, wow, I absolutely would have rather had it on base, and so that just those transaction fees are so nice, and I'm gonna. Let's see. You guys can keep chatting about it. I'm gonna show some.
Okay, cool.
Talk about what they actually tweeted out, and let's go over that because I think it's important.
Yeah, sure, and all of the replies that they did as well, because there's a lot of alpha in those replies. So, Rain, I had one of the guys, both of you met one of the whales. He just did a test yesterday. He's like, let me try it on base. Gave him the contract address, because if you just try to search a OMI or OMI on the base network, it doesn't show up. It does on ETH, it just doesn't on base. So you need that contract address. That's over in, I think if you're watching me, the link is down below. But go in Akomi's Twitter, look at that article, you'll find it in there. He did it. I think he put in like $1,000. It might have cost him $9 and that's just in the Coinbase fee. The actual fee for them, I think, was like 30 cents for base, maybe even less. It was super cheap. So yeah, that was a fun test. You can also actually add to the liquidity pool and try to make some money on the fees, but you have some impermanent loss. Do you know anything about that, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't like to do that. You can do that, but if something really appreciates, then you end up holding the other thing in there. So if you have it against, say, USDC or USDT, if OMI appreciates, you end up essentially losing some of your OMI to dollars, essentially, because it's a half and half pool. So over time, you end up with essentially selling over half yours to dollars. And so it's not worth it on something that's appreciating well. It's not bad to, like, if you're in a pool that has good rewards and you have USDT and USDC, essentially they stay at the same value and you'll end up generating fees. But I don't personally provide liquidity in something like that, even though you could earn some extra things. I find that the cons outweigh the pros.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, I'm just pulling this up here because I made a tweet about it. So let's share this screen here.
Yeah, there was a bunch of tweets about it. So you're pulling up yours?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Ooh. Okay. So right here, this is on the thread starting today, right? It was just yesterday. The official utility token, OMI, OMI, the official utility token of the Veve ecosystem, is now on the fastest growing layer 2 blockchain in crypto. OMI found, welcome to base, right? And then one of the questions is, but will this just be a bridging option or another migration? Because people were worried somehow that, we had that migration only from GoChain to IMX. And so then Ecomi responds and says there's no migration required. The OMI token will still be available on Ethereum layer 1, but the option is available to bridge or purchase on base layer 2. Now, this next line, it says base will be the primary layer that utility occurs on as it is rolled out. So I would like you guys. So I retweeted this and I basically said, read that third line. This is very important, right? What do you guys think that means? And then I'll give you guys my thoughts.
Rand, you want to go first, or should I? Rand, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, Rand is muted.
Fantastic. It'll be the primary layer that utility occurs on, right? It says there. So, like, I don't know if we're then like maybe our stuff on Ecomi that's really on whatever chain.
Immutable X.
Mutable X. It ends up getting moved over to base, and essentially base is the chain that we need to be holding on, or whatever other utilities that are there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I think that in the same way that they said in like 2021, oh, if you put your GoChain OMI over on the Veve app, we'll go and convert it for you to make it an ERC20 OMI token on Immutable X, which is on Ethereum. They might do the same thing, saying, hey, if you have any OMI on the Veve app, it will be gone and converted to the base chain OMI from Immutable X. And the reason I think they might be able to do this is because, one, I don't think it would be that hard to do technically, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. Then also, I know there's going to be a bunch of people in the same way that they did a few years ago. They were going and taking their OMI on Bit4X and they were sending it to the Veve app without doing a bridge. They were going and doing, taking OMI on a layer 1, trying to make it from a layer 2. In that same way, I think there's a bunch of people are like, oh, okay, well, Base is a layer 2 chain, and OMI has layer 2. Veve hosts layer 2 on their crypto app, on their wallet. So I can just go and convert it because they're both layer 2s, not realizing that they're on different chains and people will lose a bit of OMI. So I've been trying to really go over that in my videos. And I think just to go and end the confusion, because it's a lot cheaper now and a lot easier for people to get, maybe slightly more difficult because you have to switch chains, even though that's thoroughly explained over in the article, over in a bunch of videos. If you had $100 and you were trying to buy some OMI, you would have paid like $35 in fees on Ethereum. But now that you're only paying like $7 in fees or whatever it is, it's a lot easier to go and get OMI on Base. So you're going to have more people going and doing that. That's why the volume's been up the last day. That's why it's been gone up like 7-8%, whatever. That's why I think they'll eventually go and convert that to Base, because it's just much easier and cheaper for people to do that. So I don't think you'll need an extra wallet. Like, I don't think like, okay, now our rewards for OMI utility are going to be if you have this new wallet on Base chain, on Coinbase wallet. It's still likely going to be on the Veve app, but it's just going to host either one or both of those OMI tokens. But again, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So you said a lot there, and I kind of want to reiterate some of those things. I think one of the first things is very important, and it's just kind of like laid out logically. So right now on the Veve web wallet, right, that is L2 IMX OMI. That's what that is, right? This new Base, right, that's an L2 as well on Ethereum. So both like are like roll down to like Ethereum as the main chain that they are on. And that's why it's not a token migration by any means, right? And why you're just doing bridging with this. But so yeah, if you can't right now send your Base OMI, your layer 2 Base OMI to the web wallet. That function doesn't exist now. It might be hidden, like there might be a way for them to get that back. It's not, please don't do that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But there's questions about like, how do I if I have L1 OMI on ETH, how do I get my OMI onto Base? Stacker put out a tweet where it basically is a link to a bridge that basically will bridge your L1 OMI over to L2 OMI on Base, L2 Base OMI. That's that bridge there, so that you can get that there. So if you want to buy, sell, trade, whatever, for a lot cheaper, I saw someone tweet it out and they said it cost him about $15 to bridge it, but now buying and selling and everything like that for the OMI token on Base is going to be much cheaper than it would be if they just held it on L1, right? Now, when it's talking about that it's going to be the primary layer, right, where all of this additional utilities can be added, and people are like, what is that? Well, we know that only the NFT is coming. So my guess, like you kind of said, Randy, is that Veve is probably going to, at some point in time, offer to convert that L2 IMX OMI over to L2 Base OMI, and that's what will host it there. And like, because you get too many different OMI tokens and it can get confusing, and there's just no need for that. So, and that's why I say that when I say it says the primary function, right, of that that utility is, that's what you're going to be using for OMI to NFT. That's what you're going to be using for your soft staking, which we have right now. So I don't think people are going to have to do anything, just like they did with the GoChain conversion. This is just me speculating, but it makes a lot of sense for them to just be able to do that for you if you authorize it. And you might need to authorize them to do that or something, click something, and then they can do that for you. But that's where I see things going. It just makes a lot of sense. As you can see in the comments, there's a lot of people excited about Base. Right now, most of the tokens on Base are meme coins, but it's showing the use case. The reason meme coins are on there is because the transactions are so cheap, right? But on top of that, and I wanted to answer. So shout out to you, Euro, who asked a question on my tweet about this live stream. He says, Dr. Stuff, can you bring up the integration of the Coinbase Smart Wallet to the web app and how you envision that will work to integrate OMI on the web app? Also, what are the timelines for this new smart wallet? I don't think. Okay, well, the Coinbase Smart Wallet, my understanding is it's being rolled out this summer. So someone correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's the latest I heard, is that they're going to be rolling that out. Now, its integration into the I guess if you're asking about the Veve web app, I don't know if that will occur. There's a chance. Well, the reason I'm so bullish on the Coinbase Smart Wallet is because there will be a way in Coinbase, instead of having to buy ETH use your ETH on Coinbase, send it to your MetaMask wallet, and then swap it on Uniswap to OMI. That smart wallet will be able to interact directly with Uniswap and just say, hey, I want to swap my normal ETH in my Coinbase account for L2 Base OMI, like that. So it cuts out those steps there. So any integration into the Veve web app, I think that remains to be seen. Do I think that is possible? Yeah. And I think that that's one of the reasons why it makes sense for them to integrate on Base, is because they will be able to interact and make it easy so that I can say, well, I want my L2 OMI, and if Veve somehow makes it, or through a third party on the Veve app, with a third party on the Veve web app, I can then use my Coinbase Smart Wallet and I hold Ether or USDC or something and purchase OMI and have it in my Veve wallet. That would be fantastic. There's a lot of other ways that they can do that. Again, they might partner with someone like MoonPay, where you can just use a credit card to buy L2 Base OMI there onto your Veve web wallet. So anyways, hopefully that clarifies some things. It's breaking it down. There is a bridge there, again, from L1 OMI to L2 Base. There is a bridge from L1 OMI to L2 IMX OMI, and that's the IMX OMI is what gets on the Veve web wallet. So clear as mud. Good. Let's see some of these comments. Let's see. Yeah, so yeah, I'd sent Jordan, and shout out to you, Jordan. I showed some of your comments before, but shout out to you. Coinbase Smart Wallet, guys, and they're talking a lot about it. Like, their plan is to onboard 1 billion users into crypto, right? And they've said that the only way that that's even going to be possible or feasible is to cut out all of the complexities. I just talked about L2 and L1 and all these things and bridging or, migrations and all this. Mainstream will not accept that. They're not going to swallow it. But if they can do all of that complexity in the background, right? And all you see is this user interface. And you're like, hey, I want to buy OMI on base. And it's just like, here's this option. And I put money into my account on Coinbase, and then I can convert that from fiat. Or if I've already converted that into USDC or something, or Ether, I can then just swap it right there and it's in my wallet on Coinbase. Those are the types of things where they need that experience. It needs to be easy. And I think back to the early internet days, right? Like what we do right now, there's so much going on in the background as the type of scripting languages that are used, right? There's so many different scripting programs that are used there. We don't see any of that. We just go to a website and it interacts with, my bank account or my smartphone. Like all of this is just done in the background. That's what Coinbase is trying to build out with that smart wallet. And I'm extremely, extremely bullish on that. So, okay. I think that we kind of covered OMI on base, how to buy OMI on base. Basically, again, you can just purchase ETH. You send that ETH to base on either your MetaMask. So sorry. You have Ethereum and you have an option when you're sending Ethereum to another wallet, what chain you want that on. So you just select base, the base chain, and then that sends that onto the base chain for you. Once you have that ETH, you can then swap ETH for OMI on Uniswap to get OMI layer 2 on base. Okay, let's talk about what has become one of the biggest collaborations to date for Veve, which is Blackpink. Had you guys ever heard of Blackpink before?
No, not prior to this.
I've heard of them, but my assumption before or when I had heard of them is like, okay, South Korean K-pop, and I knew a lot of weebs growing up that just like, okay, they speak a little Japanese because I watch anime with subtitles, so they get to hear it and they kind of understand a little bit of that, not knowing that they actually have some songs in other languages, some of which English. I was like, oh, okay, well that's why they have a global audience, like I think hundreds of millions of people across all socials, and that's just the group, not including the individuals. And I think South Korea has like 51 million people in it, where just on YouTube, they have almost double that of like 93, 94 million. So clearly it's a global brand and I've been missing it. So I've heard of them before. I never listened to their music. I've started to a little bit and they're good. They're not just good looking dancers. Like they can sing, they have talent. The choreography is really cool. This is, if you look at the quoted tweets from Veve, almost half of them are Blackpink people, and they're really, I shouldn't say all of them, really excited for it. It's gained a lot of traction. Maybe 15% of them are just like, oh my God, what is this? I need to go and download this. I need to get this. Maybe another 15% are just like, okay, this is what we're doing. What is Veve? I guess I'll download it. Like they're doing it, but begrudgingly. Like they'll do what they need to do to get the new collectibles. Like they're not necessarily happy about it, but they'll do it just because of Blackpink. There's a couple of people that are waiting. There's like, okay, am I getting a discount on concert tickets for this? Am I getting a discount on Weverse, which is their thing, like to be able to purchase exclusive items? Some people are less interested. They're like, I'm not sure what this is. I'm probably going to skip it. And then there's another 10 or 15% of people like, this is NFTs. This is trash. I'm just going to stay away from this. Everyone should stay away from this. And then, but I'm trying to think. You have a bunch of the low hanging fruit, the people that are already going to download Veve. A bunch of people already have. And then you have the high hanging fruit, which is like the people that are like never going to get it because they're NFTs. They're super skeptical. And I'm curious on how much percentage of that high hanging fruit becomes that low hanging fruit, because there is going to be a percentage. We just don't know how much yet. Yeah.
It's cool when you have a partnership that brings people that otherwise are outside the crypto space into your app. I only saw that much traction happen with the Disney partnership, where people who are crazy for Disney are like, oh, I don't care anything about NFTs and everything, but I'm going to get this app because I love Disney. Like, we didn't even see it so much for Marvel, like a little bit. So it's interesting. Like, I didn't know anything about Blackpink, but kind of observing some of the behavior that there's these fans of Blackpink that are so rabid fans, like, or avid fans, that they're like, I don't know what this app is, but I'm going to get it to get this. And those are the kind of partnerships that end up becoming big, because like Veve is a gateway. Once you get started on it, right, you start to expand and learn about other things, and you're like, oh my gosh, oh, they have this and they have this. And so it's like, once you get people started on the app, like there's even people that are like totally given up on OMI. They're done with crypto, and yet they're still buying on the Veve app because it's fun and the collectibles are cool. So a lot of these people, if they get started on the Veve app, it's totally a gateway drug to crypto, as well as a gateway drug to more collectibles.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I don't, well, okay, I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to say anything. I won't say anything. I'm really working on that. So I'll just say that, there were some people or an individual specifically that was saying, like, mocking, like, oh, look at Blackpink. There's only been an additional 40 active users, since the announcement. And this was because Stacker they tweet out these metrics, and Stacker, the intern then responded and just said, well, active users is someone who's bought a collectible. So like, this is not going to capture, it might capture some, right? People who are like, oh, what is this Blackpink? I'm going to check out Veve. And then, oh, hey, what is this? I'm going to test it out. Right. And maybe they buy something. But what we do know, I've seen a lot of people who are complaining that, they had around 2,700 MCP points and they weren't master collectors anymore. And now we're seeing people in the like 2,400s and 2,300s. They're saying, hey, I'm a master collector now. What that means is that there's new wallets in there, right, with activity. And that captures activity, not necessarily buying, is my understanding there, right? For the MCP rank, if they're active, if they're on there and doing anything, then they get into there, and that's what will change the MCP ranks. So if someone who was not in the 1% then becomes in the 1%, that means that the pool has become larger, and so more people are getting into that 1%. So without seeing any of the other metrics, that by in and of itself is showing that there's been a lot more users than just 40 joining this app. Now, I do think that we'll see a bigger influx once we find out what the actual collaboration is, right? Because there's wide-ranging speculation to where it's just collectibles, to where is this like a release of a new song? That to me is like the craziest thing that could happen, right? Because as I read through the initial tweet, and a lot of those Blink fans, they were like, I'm just so sick of them trying to sell merch. When is a new song coming? Like, so many people were commenting about that. We want a new song. We want a new song. So truly, if it was like, hey, if you want this new song, you've got to buy this collectible on Veve. It would be insane. Now, I was laughing kind of at Beerman's comment here, right? That they don't have MCP points. We clean it up. My guess is, Beerman, is that they're going to have a lot. There's going to be a lot of these collectibles or whatever they are. I mean, and I don't know what that is, right? But if we're looking at their socials and we're seeing, what is it, like 59 million on Instagram, and then how many did you say on YouTube, Randy?
So there's 57 million on Instagram, 93.4 on YouTube, and that's not including Facebook. Facebook's like another 20 million. I think it's 10 million over on X, and that's just the group, not including the individuals.
Right.
As well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like best case scenario, right? That would be a phenomenal. Do I think that's happening? I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see that being the case. But could it be that could it be that we're seeing the collectibles and they are interactive, right, where they're dancing, and then when you get them all together, then they are playing a song, because this is under the Veve Vibes category, right? And the only other thing that's under the Veve Vibes category right now is the Ron English, the jukebox, and his two. So this is music. So we are getting some sort of music for sure, but like what that entails. But this is massive, guys, you know, and it's funny because I do see people like they can't even celebrate that, you know? And I'm just like, I don't feel like you are truly being what's the term? Like reasonable. If all you're doing is you're complaining about things, and sometimes like, again, like the complaints could be legit. I will not take anything away from that. But when you can't even celebrate like a collaboration like this and be like, well done, Veve, it does paint you into this box of like, okay, it seems like you just have an agenda here, right? And like you do start to lose some credibility as to your stance on things. If you're just trying to say like, I want them to succeed, I want these things, but I need these things fixed, but then you're not congratulating on these like massive things. Very interesting to see. So that's where, again, I start to see Veve saying, you know what, for new people coming in, like you said, Randy, like we just want to make this like a more welcoming space. And the Veve fan isn't perfect, man. I see some, I'm not perfect. I got called out for kind of celebrating when Crypto Wendy-O was clapping back at some of those futters, you know, and I was just like, I love to see it, you know. So yeah, we're not perfect, but there's a difference between that and then literally the toxicity of consistent complaining without ever congratulating, and then just write out attacks on people and on the team, and you know, they're scammers, they're liars, all these things. It's just like, you know what, it's time to cut that out.
I think it was good that Veve posted that, because now if they wanted, now they have like a verbal warning to everyone that at least on Twitter, saying like, hey, don't do this. We're asking you not to do this. And if they continue to do this, they could, if they wanted to, send a cease and desist letter. And they'd be well within their rights to do that, again, if they wanted to. But one of the things I really just kind of want to, again, one of the things I want to piggyback on is when you said that there could be new music. So Blackpink Venom or Blink Venom, which is they've been reporting on this for a couple of days, almost a week now. I've said that Blackpink only active this year could be that Veve Vibes promotional song, which is rumored, and they add Blackpink on it. Veve Viral says that Veve official partnership would be awesome, and if they do that, there's likely to be something that is like a hitherto Paul Barron. I don't know where these rumors, they start from someplace, and there's this Black or a Blink Venom is not someone that has really followed Veve. They've just been covering the Veve story because it has to do with Blackpink. But these rumors start from somewhere. And we do have some alpha from David. We probably shouldn't play the video, but we can just talk about it, where he just goes and says like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if you could collect these collectibles and they perform a song for you? Is that something that you have to do and put them in a certain position, and then they act a certain way and then they perform a song? If it's a new song, it's over, and they've had 2.5 years to go in and make sure that their servers are good and they can handle the amount of chaos that will come in. But this is but this is something that would be this is something that I think would be able to test the servers. Because I mean, even if you get 0.1% of their Instagram users at 50 million, that's still 50,000 users. And I'm not saying we get that, but I think we're likely to get an additional 10,000 users. Like you said before, that 40 people were just the people that had bought a collectible. There has been a couple of hundred new accounts since the Blackpink announcement. How many of those have just come and found it on its own versus how many people saw it from Blackpink? Likely mostly from Blackpink, but that number is likely to get bigger as time goes on, just because you have the that's likely not going to be the only thing that they go in and show out before the announcement in the next couple of days, which the fans are demanding that I go live for. So I'll be live for like 6 hours on that night at 3 a.m.
Love that. Well, hey, look, so Biscuits, you know,
Hey,
shout out to Biscuits. Like, she does point out a lot of concerns that she has, and I've seen a lot of commentary back and forth and things, and a lot of people making points and not agreeing or disagreeing and things. And yeah, just to touch on that, Biscuits, right? I agree with a lot of your points there. But I might disagree a little bit with the way that you approach it is all there. And it is sad to see, like, again, that like I don't see you commenting on certain big wins, you know, and it's not just you. I hope you don't think that I was trying to like pick on you, but you made this comment. And so, but yeah, like I said, like, I'd love to welcome you back at some point with open arms. You know, I understand how you feel about interoperability and these things, and I see the comments there. And the reason that you get so much interaction is because people do value your opinion, you know. And so I just want to point that out, that I do think, because you have stated in the past, right, that you want to see Veve win, and you would like to see some of these changes. And I would just say, if you're going to, the support behind that is then to when things like these massive collaborations happen, to be like, wow, that's special, right? And I saw it from so many people that are saying like I just want Veve to win. And then I see those comments, and like not a single one is congratulating them or something. It's about some other concern. And I'm like, can we take a moment and just celebrate that? And then let's go back to like trying to address real concerns that people have there. So anyways, I appreciate Biscuits, and I've had some good discussions with her. And yeah, we don't necessarily agree on things, but I really do appreciate that I do feel like she's trying to come from a point of view where she's sincere in the things that she means there. So, okay, touched on that.
Is there can I just talk about one of the things that she mentioned in a post before?
Yeah, and
do we have time?
I will apologize right now. I did not see that she commented on how happy she was for the comic app. So my apologies. And maybe I do miss some things. So I will always admit or try to admit, right, if I'm missing something like that. But that is a big win. So my apologies there. So I will take that back, Biscuits.
So there's I've messaged Biscuits. Well, I mean, in Biscuits, I think I've been friends for a while, but I've messaged her a few times over like the last year, because people really want me to get her on the podcast. And I was like, oh, hey, you should come on. Yeah. And a lot of scheduling conflicts, a lot of just like, hey, I'm doing this, which is fine. But one of the things she posted before, which I really want to address, she's saying, some people think they own a collectible if they can sell it. Say I am an employee of a comic shop and I work off commission, and I sell you a comic. Do I own that comic I just sold to you? No, the person who just walked out of the store does. And if we're comparing Veve comics to normal comics, this is a fair example down below in my opinion. She says, I walk into a comic shop, I buy a comic, but I can't walk out the door with it. I want to sell it, but I have to wait for someone else to come in to buy it from me. Someone comes into the comic shop and buys it from me. The shop makes a bit of a commission, similar to what Veve does in their ecosystem. And the person who just bought that comic from you is now in the same position you were just in. They can't leave with the comic and can't sell it unless someone else comes in that shop to buy it from them. So one, I think most people, not all of them, some people that are pure Web3ists might just be like, oh, okay, I can buy this, I can put it in self-storage, I can sell it on OpenSea, and they just might not know that it's a closed ecosystem, which is probably a small percentage, but they are there. And then you have some people, I'll relate this to Pokemon, like if you have Veve, an NFT, yeah, correct, you can't sell it on OpenSea, you can't sell it on Immutable X Marketplace, you're only allowed to have it in Veve. And if you are able to, if it is interoperable and you were to be able to sell it on those other places, you could still only sell it to people that are interested in any type of digital collectibles that are in NFTs. Whereas same thing with Pokemon, like if I were to buy a Pokemon card, Pokemon company can't tell me what to do. I can sell that to wherever I want, most likely on eBay, because that's where the biggest marketplace is. But then I could also sell to someone that I see in real life. But the issue is that most people in real life do not collect Pokemon cards, and they could get a really good deal on a Pokemon card that I could give them, but they're just not interested. Like they wouldn't buy it. So even if we were able to go onto OpenSea or wherever, most likely the people that would be interested in this type of stuff on Veve would already be on Veve. And they just because it's on an OpenSea or it's on Immutable X doesn't mean that it would gain any other higher price or wait for people to sell it. Again, just to me, it seems like there are, if they were interested in it, they'd be on here and they would buy it. And people mostly know that going into it. And again, some don't. But that's just kind of kind of my take on it. We've seen a bunch of people, let's say like Recur. Recur was interoperable from the beginning. Even after Recur closed, even before Recur closed down, it didn't matter after Recur closed down, you still have ownership of it. You could still sell all of those NFTs, but it didn't matter. People just weren't interested. So that's just kind of my thing there.
I have some thoughts on this. Like the closed ecosystem is its major strength and its weakness at the same time. Because the ease of getting on the app and being able to buy it and not having to get in like a wallet and everything, that's a major strength for onboarding new users who have no idea how to get their own MetaMask wallet, their own Trust wallet, and have interoperability. We know people within the Veve ecosystem that have been buying Veve collectibles so easily, and then they tried to get the Todd McFarlane ones and like, okay, goodness, you actually get custody of your own thing. And they were frustrated to all hell and didn't end up getting it. Why? Because the complexity there. And most right now, the complexity of owning your own stuff is very high. And so the bridge between that is giving people what they're used to, which is a closed ecosystem that might later then have interoperability. Because a closed ecosystem can easier, at least for now, bridge the gap to new people coming on and onboarding, because they don't have to worry about getting their own MetaMask wallet. They can create a login and then get on and they can buy stuff. Is it as good as holding custody of your own stuff? No, it's not. There's always some risk that somehow you piss them off and they shut down your account, just like your bank, might freeze your funds. And so whenever you're having someone else hold your stuff, there's some risk there. And those risks aren't ideal. The system is the best system right now for onboarding mass users, because if somebody has to go in and get their own key phrase and write down 24 words or possibly lose access to everything, that's going to trip up so many people and it's going to slow down mass onboarding. Do I hope they then let advanced users be able to send their collectibles to their own wallet if they want? Yeah, that'd be great. For now, like, I'm happy with the trade-offs. I don't love somebody else having essentially custody of quote unquote my items. Because there's some risk with that. Maybe I say the wrong thing and I don't know, some admin locks my account or whatever. It is always a risk. And it's like, oh, they would never do that. And it's like, people are people. Sometimes people do things they shouldn't do. So would they ever do that? Probably not, but they might, right? Whenever somebody else is holding your stuff, there's always that risk.
The one other thing I just want to piggyback on, Biscuit says, right, but Veve isn't going down. Recur went down, and then she says Veve will take your collectibles for being inactive. So they did go on and they did say that is in their terms of service. And I know most people don't read the terms of service. This is why you should. Like, they kind of say that in there to begin with. Is it right for that? Like, let's say if you were in a coma and you weren't active for 6 months or a year or whatever, and then suddenly your collectibles are gone. Yeah, that's wrong. And Veve shouldn't do that. And in my opinion, I think, this is just my opinion of what I think, that David and Dan would be like, oh, okay, these are extenuating circumstances. Let us go in and just override the TOS. We'll give you back your account and your collectibles if you aren't active for those reasons. And I know that life happens. Let's say it's not just those types of things. Maybe people have like super depression, they can't get out of bed. Like, it might just go into a case by case basis. But we've been down this road before, and I remember in like 2022, whenever they were no longer allowing gems to be sold and off-app market deals, everyone would come to me and be like, "Hey, Randy, I never bought any off-app gems. I never broke any terms of service. Can you help me with this?" I would connect them with Reese and everyone, and I think there was at least one, but maybe two people that they were truthful, that they did not do any off-app gems purchases or services. And 99% of those people that I had like connected with the company, and it turns out they did do those off-app things, and they broke terms of service, and they knowingly broke terms of service, and then they lied to me trying to use my relationship. So I understand that there's a extenuating circumstances where Veve should be like, hey, our terms of services are really just for the masses. This is an exception. We should give you those back. But it is their company, and as much as it kind of sucks, it's just whatever they put out that you agree to when you sign up. That's the contract. Like, you agree to that, and that is what it is. And I can't. That's just in an adult world, and you have to Unfortunately, that might be a very expensive lesson for some people. But for others, it might be that, hey, Vivi's being really nice here because I had stuff going on in my life. That's just going to happen. And you could either agree with that and accept that, or you could be like, hey, this isn't something I'm willing to do, and then you don't participate, and that's fine. That's up to you.
Yeah, I'll round out this discussion. I mean, because we kind of talked about it. I think around the Comeyverse, we kind of touched on it there too, right? I'll just say this: do I want interoperability at some point? I do. Like I'm with you. I want self custody. I like it. For those who want it, I think it's great to have that. To Rain's point, I think right now the best way to onboard the masses is a closed ecosystem, right? Were we promised interoperability? Yes. Do I think that we will eventually get there? I do. I still truly believe that there will be licensors that allow us to be interoperable. We're already seeing that with Pat Cows. Like they made that announcement, right? Or Candy, I guess, right? That DC stuff is going to be interoperable. Now what that means, we'll see. So there's a lot of pros and cons to all of these things, and I get the whole ownership thing. I would just say for right now, I now understand the terms of service. I don't like that after 2 years of inactivity because, weird scenarios of being in a coma, or sometimes people forget, they lose interest, and then they're like, oh, you know what? Like, man, all of a sudden they hear about a drop like Blackpink, and they're like, man, I want to reopen that app. And that would be devastating for them to then open it and be like, where's my stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't like that. But I'm aware of the terms of service, and as I continue to use the app, that's what I'm agreeing to do that. And I'm accepting that definition of ownership right now as I'm using the app. So
if they enforce that, it seems like lawsuits waiting to happen, right? And some grandma is going to have bought some stuff and forgotten about it. The crypto cycle, like 3-year bear market, so a lot of people just go to sleep, and then 4 years later they're like, oh yeah, Veve, I have a bunch of stuff, and they go to log on. It's like all your stuff has been wiped out because you haven't logged in 2 years. I don't see the judge being very favorable to Veve on that, being like, oh, you deleted their stuff, you burned it because she hadn't logged in 2 years. Oh yeah, but our terms of service said this. Sorry, give grandma her stuff back. Oh, we can't, we burned it. Okay,
not grandma.
The fine is going to be big, so I hope they don't enforce that, right? It is nice to get people to log on frequently because it affects their numbers as far as active users and stuff. So it gives them more traction if they can get everyone to be active. If that's what that is, like, don't enforce that mechanism. Like, don't enforce that ever on somebody. Like, there's sure it might cost you extra hosting or whatever to do that, but I can just see the lawsuits down the road. There's going to be somebody with very good reasons. And if they ever burn them, boy, they can't then give them back. If they just kind of like, oh yeah, case by case basis, then they're going to bog down their customer service people.
So I'm just going to touch on this last point then. And then for sure, we're going to end it. I don't think anyone's whining. I'm definitely not getting with you. I appreciate you, Harris. Harris, you're great. Can I just say that? I just want to take a moment. I really appreciate you, Harris, and our conversations and responses and things. But to your point, Ray, like there's this balance that I don't think that people are seeing, and I kind of said this on around the Comeyverse too. There is liability for dormant accounts that they can get hacked, right? I literally just got a notice right now that from I don't know, when I did my mortgage like years ago or something, and they're like, like there was a data breach, and like all of your information is out there and things, and so now you gotta be careful, and all of this information, including password for your account, right, is out there. So if you have that password and you're using it for anything else, you got to be aware of that, right? So let's say that happens, and I've got a dormant account, and then someone accesses that information, and I happen to have the same password and email address for people to log into Veve, right? And then they can access that, and then they can sell their stuff and change there's just a lot that can happen there. There's a lot of liability for dormant accounts. That's why when I said, and I use my comparison for a bank, and it's funny, I know that there are some people who don't like that, but I think it's probably one of the best. There's no perfect comparison, but I do think it's one of the best comparisons in the fact that banks do over time drain your account and then close it. And you can file a lawsuit and you don't win. Mm-hmm. So lawsuits, but honestly, if it's in the terms of service and things, just from the bank side of things, I've seen it where those lawsuits have occurred and the bank wins because they said, hey, but again, to Biscuit's point, it's not all at once, right? They're not like, hey, you've been inactive for this long. We're literally wiping out everything. If I had $1,000 in my account or $10,000 in my account, it would take a very long time of $5 a month to get down and whittle it down to zero before they actually close the account, So anyways, very interesting discussion. Just want to address that here. But let's jump back in a little bit. Randy, Crypto Video had she made in one of her videos, she actually talked about the Blackpink partnership, right? And she had maybe like a minute and a half blurb on that and said she was really excited. Her daughter really loves Blackpink, and then she jumped on a space, and then I know that you had like tweeted at her or something like that, asking her to come on the show. Has anything evolved in that area?
So first, I would like to apologize to people. There were when I had discovered that she had talked about us, I was like, oh, hey, let's go to let me go and post this on Twitter. I think people really like it because anyone that talks about it, it's like anyone back in the day, even now, any celebrity that comes out for like a politician that people like, oh, this person came out for it, it's good for us. Anyone that's in that camp, it's really fun to have. So when she came out in support of Veve, saying that she had mentioned Veve before, she likes them, and that she really wants to partner with them, I was like, okay, this is really cool. It is not a good sign, though, when they like your post, they interact with your post, they like everything, all of the people commenting, but they do not follow you back. So I don't think she's going to come on the podcast. And also, I didn't message David about it. Dr. Prophet had gone and messaged about it. And people asked like, oh, Brandy, why didn't you do it? I messed up. I didn't think of it. I figured she had probably reached out already and Veve was probably aware of her. But Dr. Prophet was the one to go and do that. So shout out to him. And I don't know if anything comes from that. They may or may not do that. I know they've had other people that they've talked with them in the past about having a partnership with them and like kind of nothing came from it. I think that's partly because Veve and David are a little bit more frugal and they just like to be a little bit more conservative how they spend their funds. But that has been the last few years when we've been in a bear market. Now we're in a bull. Now might be a little bit more of, now is the time. So it might come out of it. I don't think she'll come on the podcast, but she might be a partner with Veve at some point.
Cool. I like her. I like her macro views and her videos. I love how she goes after Gensler. Oh my gosh. Wow. And
Gensler's my favorite person. And Mr. Burns, is my favorite person.
Yeah. Man, the internet wins with memes and things like that. It's so funny there. So look, that would be awesome, right? And one thing I want to point out, and here's my thing. Like I said, I highly respect Biscuits. Stop calling people names, guys. That really irks me. If you don't agree with Biscuits' point, again, attack the argument, not the person. We have to clean that up, right? And again, I got called out for that again with someone, like I was being a hypocrite, and my justification was, well, this person is extremely toxic and they attack so many people, and like just literally the bottom of the barrel for me of human beings, like barely meets that definition. But like I got to try to keep that to myself. You know what I mean? And because there are people behind that, and words mean things. And so please let's try to keep this as a amicable debate, and we can agree to disagree, and that's okay, and leave it like that, right? Because as we saw in the chat, there's a lot of people who are like, you know what, I'm fine with Veve custodying my stuff. You know what I mean? And others are like, I want self-custody. I ultimately want self-custody. But like, I believe it's coming. And like, I know that the team knows that. I know that the team knows that there are people who want self-custody. So for me, I'm not going to continue to talk about it because I know that they know that. And I believe it's on the roadmap and maybe it's down the road. But anyways, those are my thoughts on that. Again, appreciate you, Biscuits.
I would love to see it on the roadmap, but down the road, like there's other priorities like ahead of that. That's important to me. It's more important to me in the long term rather than the short term, mean, OMI to NFT, where you can buy the collectibles with OMI, that's high on my priority list that I would love to see. Funny Harris says Veve haters became Wendy O haters overnight because she supported Veve.
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. The vitriol there, right? Where it's like, instead of like celebrating the win, they just go on an attack. And those are the types of people that Veve is just like, enough's enough. You know what I mean? You're not adding to the conversation here. You're literally just attacking people on this, right? And
it's funny, like, you see this every crypto winter, and most of these people haven't been around more than this is their first experience with it, right? And they've just kind of emotionally, they're done because I don't know if it's their emotional intelligence or their just ability to handle the stresses of the bear market. Like, there's very good reasons why over 90% of people don't do very well in crypto, because like these bear markets wash them out. They end up selling at the bottom after having bought in at the top. And so we'll see another wave of things going up. And it's really easy to buy in when everybody's saying it's a great buy, which is usually late in the system. Like right now, everyone's talking about, oh my gosh, meme coins are the thing. Meme coins are, I need to get in meme coins. Okay, so they're buying high, hoping it goes higher. And maybe it will go higher from here, but then they'll forget to take their profits out. And then it will crash down, and then they'll be hating on XYZ meme coin that they bought into, because then other things will be running. So these things happen in cycles, and they just haven't been through it. And so they don't understand what's happening, and they're just frustrated, and they're just lashing out emotionally. And, oh, the team sucks because they can't do anything right, because otherwise the price would be higher. And they don't realize if the team had done almost everything right, the price still wouldn't be very different from what it is right now. Maybe a little bit higher, but not meaningfully. And so these people would still be mad and upside down. And then the bull market happens and the token takes off because everyone says, oh, digital collectibles are the next thing. And that's coming, right? That's just part of the cycle, and we're not there yet. So these Veve haters, they will all disappear when that happens. The ones that are emotionally toxic, when it goes crazy, they'll complain for a little bit, and then they'll just get tired of like watching Veve prices climb or OMI prices climb, and they'll just shut up, and you won't hear from them.
So let's get real for a second. Let me give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, so and this is not everyone. I'll be generalizing here. Well, I mean, for me, this is actually 100% true, but I don't think I've ever been talked down to or degraded by anyone that's more successful than me. And I'm just one person, so there might be other people that have had different scenarios or different circumstances, but let's say like bald eagles and like crows, right? Bald eagles are like the baddest cats in the sky, and every now and then a crow will like land on them, and half of the time they're just hitching a ride so they don't have to waste precious energy, precious calories. But the other half of the time, crows will kind of get a little uppity and think, oh, I'm really smart. I can like really heck this guy and try to peck at him, and try to steal whatever catch that he has. If I peck him on the neck, if I peck him on, the skull, maybe he'll drop his catch and I can steal it. But the bald eagle doesn't fret. It doesn't worry. It pretty much just ignores the crow that's behind that's trying to drag him down. It just flies higher and higher and higher. And it goes so high, it goes to a point where the crow can't breathe. It gets too thin for the crow to breathe, and it just falls off. The eagle can fly higher than in which the crow can survive. And I think that we can take that lesson. We can say, okay, a lot of the Veve fudders, at least what I've seen, again, I'm generalizing here, a lot of the fudders, a lot of the haters, a lot of the people that are just super negative, they try to bring people down to lift themselves up. And they just can't survive. And I think I've told you guys privately, and I'll tell everyone here publicly, a lot of the people that go in and hate on Veve and talk absolute nonsense, we laugh at them in the whale groups. We laugh at them in the whale groups on the internet and the whale groups in real life. We laugh at them, and because we know they're not going to make it, because we know they're mostly unsuccessful. And it's not like a rich versus poor thing, 1%. It's a, how are you this sad of a person? Are you this negative force in the universe that you have to do nothing but try to spew hate? And it's like, in the same way that success and happy people get happy. I like being around happy people, and negative people are people that have to be dealt with. And those negative people are likely just going to attract more negative people, and that's not a good life. Like, that's not happy. I think it would be better if people were just real about their situations, and they could recognize, okay, here's my weaknesses, here's why I'm jealous, and like I'm jealous of both of you guys. I love you guys, and you guys are just have amazing like partners and families, and it's like, oh man, like when me and Rain were in Arizona a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, everyone here is so like wise and like just older, and they just had like their lives together. I was like, oh, I want this to last forever because I'm jealous, and I want to have what everyone else has. And I think that a lot of these fudders, a lot of these haters are people that just can't express that. And in the same way that some jealous exes, they're like, okay, well, my partner's not really paying it, or my ex-partner's not paying attention to me. Let me be really, really savage towards them. And even if it's negative attention, some attention is better than no attention. And that's just what they do. And I realize I've gone off on a tangent here, but that's just kind of my take on it. Cheers.
Yeah, I was thinking about the example of like divorces, right? Where you see a spouse, and it's often the woman, it's sometimes the man, where they just cannot like stand any successes of the other person, and just they can't say anything nice about them at all. And that's what reminds me of some of the vitriol of some of the people that have just turned to the dark side, right? And they just go crazy about it. And it's like, I've just decided, like, stop giving them much attention. Stop trying to share with them and help them see. Like, I tried that last bull run or last bear market going into the bull run, but I didn't have a YouTube channel back then. So a lot of my discussions were on Telegram and other things, or in the comments of other people's videos, and trying to help them see how it would go, because I could already see how the patterns were playing out. And I was like, these things are going to do really well. We're going to hit the bull market, and they didn't want to listen. So I thought maybe this time with like a microphone that I could make the case to them. I found that it just bounces right off them because they're not trying to see it. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, and they're not trying to drink. They're just trying to complain. And it's like, cool. All right. Yeah, we'll stop wasting time on them, because it is just a waste of time, and spend time with the people that want insights on what's happening. Like a lot of the people here that are Veve family, a lot of them came in 2021 or later. So if they came in 2021, they saw part of a bull run, but they didn't see a bull run that they were well prepared for, which is when most people come into crypto. The smart people stuck around during that bear market, and they accumulated, because that's where the major gains come from, is buying really, really low during the bear market. And then we're about to see a bull run again. And so I know, a lot of the viewers of my channel, we call them rainmakers, have been accumulating during this bear market, and it's going to go really well for them in this coming bull market. And that'll be really exciting. And, a lot of these fudders, they're going to find out the hard way by sitting on the sidelines as things go crazy. And most of them will just then turn away from crypto and like decide it's a scam, rather than looking in the mirror and being like, I was wrong on that. Let me update my thinking. Let me learn from this. Gosh, they were right about all these things. Yeah, sure. I was hurt emotionally about Veve, and I got vitriol. Like, cool. Let me move past that and then learn from this experience. Maybe some of them will go that route. I hope they do. That's a sign of higher emotional intelligence, but some will just turn away. Like, I remember one of the projects I followed last bear market was Cardano, and Charles Hoskinson got so sick of the fudders that would just attack daily. He started giving like the major ones labels, and he called them Molten Tar Monster number 1, number 2, number 3, like all the way through like 10. And these were like major YouTubers that would attack him on a daily basis. And they all just stopped talking about Cardano when it later ran. Like, it was kind of fun to watch, right? And these are people with big YouTube channels at the time, had 80,000 subscribers, which was huge back then for crypto YouTube. Most YouTube channels didn't have that many. And so later they just moved on and just stopped talking about Cardano whatsoever when it did well.
So there's, before I let Doc go, as I realized I talked for a while before, people saying like, oh, crypto Wendy, she just she just talked about things and then sold at the top and dumped on everyone. Well, I mean, I get it. You shouldn't promote like pump and dumps or scams, but like, what do you think like the stock market is? What do you think investing is in general? It's you buy low and you sell high, and you talk about things that you're passionate about. Like I talked about Pokemon cards for years, and then when people were getting those $1,200 checks and they were buying all these Pokemon cards, damn right I was selling because I was making like 6 and 10x. And just because you sell at a profit doesn't mean that you're dumping on people. You're just like, hey, I put in my time and I put in my research, and it's come to a valuation where I think it's fine and I think it's okay to sell because I bought it when it was undervalued, and that's it. That's the name of the game. Is it wrong to say like, hey guys, you should buy now while you're selling? Yes, that is absolutely wrong, and you should probably not do that. But I just don't know if there's any evidence of that's what's happening there.
Yeah, so I just had to. I was just laughing. What's up, Ace? Ace, are you an ageist? What's going on here? Are you kidding me? Come on now, man.
Ace is super
it just
cool.
hurts. That hurts.
Ace has. I think he's trolling because we had a deal.
I love this. I think it's fun. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not. Well, I'm not like. What is middle age? I feel like middle age might be like in their 40s, maybe. I am 33, and I know that it might look a little bit older. I was in a private call with someone, and they were just like, "Yeah, my wife told me you would look super cute if you didn't look homeless." And I was like, "Okay, that's fair." But so I know I look a little older. Military accelerates your aging a bit. But no, Ace is super cool. We did a big OTC deal with someone, and he's super chill. We love Ace.
Oh yeah, no, like I mean, even if he's trolling, like I own that stuff, right? Like comments like that are fun. I don't feel like they're malicious or anything, regardless. But so I had to show that. And look again, right? Debates and arguments are great, even some friendly needling. But just personally attacking isn't cool, right? And again, I try not to have that on the channel or anything. I try not to show those type of comments. And I probably actually shouldn't have shown the comments about Cryptowenio because I don't know. I don't know if that's true. And so that probably wasn't fair to her. And I do want to address the term pump and dump really stems from not someone who bought low and sold high, but was paid to shill a coin, right? So they got the coin for free. They talk about it on their channel to their subscribers. So then their subscribers purchase it, and then they sell those free tokens onto the community. Now, I'm going to say something here, okay? I will not name the individual, but let's just say that there is someone who most people know about who has tweeted about a token that they quote-unquote purchased. Well, I was able to trace that wallet, and it appears like that individual got an airdrop of a decent amount of tokens before they then purchased the token to start talking about it. If that's the case, there's a couple things that are wrong with that. Number one, that is the definition of a pump and dump, right? Because now they're showing it. They have not acknowledged. This is the other thing. They have not acknowledged that they got those tokens dropped to them. That is illegal. That is criminally prosecutable because you have not disclosed that compensation to say that you've been paid by that project. Crazy that is happening. I won't say who the individual is, but you can look at people's tweets and they say they start buying into a token. So if you can pinpoint who that is, and again, I have the wallet addresses to do that. So number one, that individual might then say, oh, those weren't really my purchases. Well, that'd be crazy because the purchases that they showed weren't one right next to the other, where maybe they took a screenshot, right? They were separate transactions at different times. And there was no other transactions that had those exact same amounts anywhere in the blockchain, only ones. And so when I traced that wallet, that's where I saw the airdrop there. Crazy stuff, guys. So be careful who you listen to, all right? This is someone who a lot of people, I don't know why, and I don't know why they follow this individual. A lot of times it's crazy. It's crazy their stance on things, the flip-flopping, it's wild. But anyways, I'm saying this. I have the wallet transactions. And again, they could then say, well, this isn't my wallet. Then they lied about purchasing the token. I don't know. I don't know what to say, right? But it's a like lose-lose situation for this individual. But more than likely, this is their wallet, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So we talk about pump and dumping. That's someone in this community. I say in this community. I don't know if I can necessarily call that person in the community anymore. But so just be careful. There are people who have ulterior motives to talk about a token. And just be aware that happens, right? That happens. Look at Logan Paul, right? When he talked about Veve, he was paid to talk about Veve or to OMI, right? He didn't care. he didn't buy the token, right? He just got paid that and he was shilling it. So these are the types of things that just do your own research, be aware of that, right? And I'll leave it at that. But
yeah, I don't think it's Govell he's talking about, but I don't know. So who knows?
Yes, I have looked younger when the years were less. Yes, shave and cut my hair.
That's so funny.
I might do that again at some point. But yeah, so what I really like about when Veve potentially partnering with Crypto Wendy is that she will, from what I hear, have been partnering with people that donate a certain amount to her charity. I forget what the charity is, but you could find it on. She has it tagged on her Twitter, and for Veve, like if they donate to a charity, like it's essentially free money because they go and they just write that off on their gains, and then it's they'd have to pay less taxes. So that's something that they would likely do anyway. They already have a charity arm that I've been waiting to hear a little bit more about. Next time David comes on the stream, maybe in a couple of days when we have that Blackpink announcement, will come on. Yeah, he'll be able to expand on the charity arm, but they'll essentially be able to get her for free. If they just go and donate to her charity, she'll go and partner with them. That'd be really cool.
Okay, I can't tell. Is this really Veve's account?
Let me see. Whose account are they on? Who are they?
Well, it's not mine because it's a link thing. So
channel, go to channel. Yes, that is them. 54.8 thousand subscribers. That is them. Shout out to you, Mr. MC.
Yeah, we'll take it. Shout out Veve. Hey, look, and congratulations again. Can we just reiterate? I mean, and like the buildup is really exciting. Just to see this Blackpink collaboration, and it was interesting. I was in this Telegram group, right, and one of the things that we'll just say like a pretty significant KOL in the Veve community was just like, it'd be great if like Blackpink actually tweeted or like kind of responded and acknowledged this collaboration, because we didn't really see that from Disney, where they tweet out some of their Marvel drops, or I mean, their Disney drops or the Golden Moment drops or things like that. Let me back up. They obviously made that big announcement when Disney first came on with the Golden Moments. They did a little thing there, but then drops after that. They're not retweeting some of the Veve stuff, and so the individual was like, "Man, it'd be really great if Blackpink actually acknowledged this." And then they posted it on their Instagram, right? And I mean, these things, it's like millions of views. That is phenomenal. And the other thing that is crazy, and this is something we didn't talk about, but I was talking to Crypto Cosmo, shout out to you, Cosmo, that he pointed out. He's like, it is insane to me that now we've had the Funko collaboration and the Blackpink collaboration, and no one saw it coming. They were able to keep that quiet for years, right, as that was developing. So what else do they have? Right? I mean, not to get too far in the future, because I'm still really excited about this Blackpink collaboration. I've been listening to some of the music, and I'm just like, okay, this is good stuff, man. Anyways, just awesome. Congratulations. Appreciate you supporting the stream. So anyway,
do you want some alpha?
Always.
Yes.
It might not be like crazy. Well, maybe on 28 December of 2022, this is about a month, maybe 2 months after I learned about it, I had posted a tweet and I said, "Prince Ali, mighty is he, Ali Ababa," and I go on and quote the rest of that Aladdin song. I said, "Who sent those goons to their lords? Why, Prince Ali." And it was just a tease that we had Alibaba, and then they finally mentioned Alibaba, or at least David had mentioned them like 7 or 8 months later over on his Instagram. I'm letting you guys know that obviously anyone that works for Veve and Nakomi, they have to go in and sign an NDA. I do not have to sign an NDA because I don't work for the company. There's more coming. And you're not ready. No one is ready. Sorry. Excuse me. Let me finish this drink here.
So one of the things that, honestly, when I had Mr. MC1 on my channel, right, and I was interviewing him, and I loved his backstory. Guys, if you haven't heard Mr. MC1's like backstory of who he is and what is happening, man. Okay. You should listen to that interview with him and listen to it, because there is a point in there where I ask him, like, we're talking about things and he does have an NDA, right? But all he said is this, there was a point in time where Sanjay, he was like ripping at Veve, right? Like I was like, yo, like he was mad, right? He's like, you guys need to get moving, get things moving, like, but like tweet after tweet after tweet. And I was like, almost like, Sanjay's become like very, very upset here. What is going on? And all he said is a little bit more background, right? So Sanjay, like, I mean, he's been the CEO of fintech companies. He was the general manager, like for Amazon. Like this guy has worked in massive multinational companies, right? This guy's seen a lot. And basically he's like, what I have seen is extremely exciting. He's like, Veve's moving quick and at scale. And I'm like, what is that? What? And I don't know, right? He hasn't told me. But for someone that has that experience at that level, to couch it like that, to me, I put a lot of weight into that, what he's saying with that. And I think that this Blackpink thing is a big deal. Now, there are people who are pointing out, they're saying, and I would love anyone who knows a lot about Blackpink. There is a question about like, have they really broken off and they're all doing their own individual thing, but they still have a contract with Blackpink and like Blackpink is required to perform at some point, or does anyone know what's going on there? Like, I don't know. But regardless, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Binance tried to get Blackpink. Binance tried to get back. There's you can Google it. It fell through. It never happened. But the Veve did. I'm just saying that's a big deal. That's a big deal, at least for me, right? So
for Sanjay's Mr. MC1 thing, I know one of the NDAs he had was for the Veve Comics app, and there were a couple of people beta testing that. I don't know if that's the only NDA he had. There just because he had contact with David, there might have just been other things that he told him, like, hey, include this in the NDA. But yeah, you could imagine, like, let's say I was just talking to a guy, his name is Sonny. I won't dox him or anything, but we were talking about Veve and licenses. He's coming on as to maybe a client of mine, and he runs as just was consulting for crypto for him, but he's just a big real estate guy. He's been a VC in a couple of different things, and when I showed him all of the licenses we had and the new license of Blackpink, he immediately said, like, that there's got to be worth at least 8 figures, like in the tens of millions of dollars. So I don't know if Veve had to go in and actually pay them in order to get this, or if they had leveraged themselves saying, like, hey, we are like $1 billion company. Like, we're worth not just the 8 figures that your license might be worth, but we might be worth, add a zero to that. We might be worth like $1 billion or multiple billions of dollars, 10 figures. And that might have been a reason. And I could just be, I'm just taking one little inch of information and going like a mile with it. But I think it is safe to assume that other people would have likely offered them X amount of capital, from what he said, like 8 figures, like $10 million more, to go in and get that license. And did Veve actually pay that, or did they leverage themselves and saying, hey, we have Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, USPS, and you could be shoulder to shoulder with them if you come on to us, and how much did that actually cost them? I don't know if that number will ever come out. I don't know if those secrets will ever come out, but I'm very, very curious. The fact that Veve got them means one of two things. Either they spent 8 figures, tens of millions of dollars, or they leverage their own company, and David, just being one of the best salesmen in the entire world, just happened to get them for next to no cost. We're just not sure what happens yet.
Well, if you think about it, right? So Disney in some ways has missed the bigger point of, like, imagine if they pushed their own moments and they did things, because they make money every time that changes hands. Imagine if Blackpink gets that and they're like, okay, let's do the deal, and we just make the royalties on it, and we're going to talk about these. And so then the price of those goes absolutely ballistic. Like Bored Ape Yacht Club, how much did they make off their royalties? Like insane amounts, right? So imagine they get it and they're like, oh yeah, no, we're thinking long term. Like, don't pay us up front, just give us this royalty fee and let us talk about it. And then they, so I don't know how that came together, but a big brand and a big name like that kind of gets where digital collectibles are going. I could see them understanding it's like, oh yeah, just give us some of the royalties in perpetuity as these change hands. That's the greatest gift that they could ask for, right? Because it's kind of like a lot up front or a little bit over the rest of your lives. I'll take the little bit, which can add up to actually a lot over the rest of your lives if these collectibles take off and they're retweeting it. So their actions are indicating that they've got some buy-in on this and they understand the bigger picture.
So speaking of Bored Ape Yacht Club, we had, or I guess this is just a post from them on May 5th of 2024. They had a space saying, hey, meet at the clubhouse. And the recording out of all the people that tuned in for the hour and 50 minutes that were live were 1,846 viewers, meaning that there were less than 1,900 people that viewed in. And if you go to Mr. MC1, so that was an official Bored Ape Club, Bored Ape Yacht Club post. And Bored Ape Yacht Club was just the leader in the last NFT bull run, having over 1 million followers over on X, just having all the celebrities come in. The unofficial Mr. MC1 space with Blackpink Mexico, a bunch of Blackpink people there, David Yu was there. They had more than double that. They had like 3,800 people tune in, not including the people that had listened to the replay. So, and they had theirs much sooner. They had theirs 2 days ago, as opposed to Bored Ape Yacht Club that had theirs 4 days ago, and they had already doubled their viewership. And the alpha that David dropped on there was that, well, he dropped a couple things, but one of the things was that he said was he might be able to get one of the people from Blackpink into a Twitter space. If that happens, that goes and that like breaks Twitter, that breaks the spaces. And we've had people, I think all three of us at one point have said, hey, this might be, Veve is in the perfect opportunity, the perfect space to go in and lead this next bull run for digital collectibles. Last time it was PFPs. Profile pictures you could put on Instagram, you could put on Twitter, and that's why Bored Ape Yacht Club is super well. But it's likely not going to happen the exact same way. It'll happen a similar way. Digital collectibles will have its run, NFT will have its bull run. But the high-end 3D premium digital collectibles is likely going to be in front with the massive IP. And even Wendio said that Veve this could launch the NFT bull run for digital collectibles, and Veve could be right in that place. Your thoughts on it? Am I being a little too moon boyish? Am I interpreting this data incorrectly, or is this something that, hey, Randy, you might be spot on, you might be hitting the nail?
It is interesting how much that has, and you've seen this shift. Like, it is crazy seeing the shift up in master collector, right? So I figured when a lot of people started onboarding, it would shift the numbers towards master collector on where that threshold is. And you're seeing that shift, which suggests a bunch of new people getting the app. Like, but I don't know what the numbers are. And so, like, I was unaware of Blackpink. I know that K-pop is really big, but I didn't know specifically who in K-pop is big. And so, and I didn't know how big this band was. I was mostly unaware of them. I probably heard some of their songs, though. I looked up one and it was in Korean. I didn't understand it. It's showing, like, I'm seeing the results that it is big by the wave of incoming new users. And it'll be interesting to see what the actual numbers of those are, and be interesting to see what happens on this drop. Whether Veve really takes off now or it takes off in 6 months from now, I can't really say. I just feel like they're positioned to surf the tidal wave or the tsunami that comes in towards digital collectibles when it comes in. And maybe this ushers in that wave, or maybe it doesn't. But either way, like, you're seeing them make the right kind of partnerships. If Binance couldn't get them and Veve did, that's a really big deal, and shows that Veve has closing power. And that's part of what makes them so special, right? They've always had the best licenses, and they continue apparently to get the best licenses that other people can't get.
Yeah. I mean, Does it kick off the NFT bull run? No, I don't think that that's what does it. I think gaming. I think gaming will. Like that's my bet. I've seen some really cool games that are coming out, and it just takes one. It will just take one really really cool game, where people are like, I want to play this. So one of the ones, like full disclosure, right? Like I've invested in this token. It hasn't dropped yet. It hasn't released, but off the grid, right? Is the game, and Gunzilla Games is kind of like the parent company, right? So it's an ecosystem, but Off the Grid is their first game, and they got what's his name, Mister Big. Oh, I just blanked out on his name. It'll come to me, but they got a big gamer streamer to Dr. Disrespect. That's his name. To play the game, right, and to stream about it and things. And they've been building for several years now. And they're going to be dropping that on Xbox. I think it will be the first Web3 game on Xbox and PlayStation. There's already an advertisement for it. Like you can go to the Microsoft Xbox store and look at Off the Grid, and it shows a picture like it's coming, right? And all it's going to take is for people to play that game and be like, man, this is really fun. And then they'll get a notification and it's like, oh, you've earned this weapon. Would you like to sell it in the marketplace? And they're going to be like, wait, what do you mean sell it in the marketplace? And it's just like, oh, you can sell this. And like all of that is working in the background, right? And then people are like, wait a second, I'm earning like assets, like I can sell these, like what's going on here? And then someone will be like, oh, like those are NFTs. And they'll be like, wait, what? And I think that will spark a wildfire. Like, and it's just going to take one game to do that. And I think once that happens, and it will happen, that's when I think that all of a sudden some of the sales on that game are going to get pretty big, and it's going to gain traction, and then it can take off from there. That's my guess. And Veve will ride that wave. That's my guess there. But so anyways, my thoughts on it. Yeah, and Big Ace, he must be aware of it as well, right? Off the Grid. I'm excited. I'm excited about some of these things there. So,
so speaking of being excited, we have had multiple drops, like the Spider-Man, what's it called? The Zombie Hunter Spider-Man as part of the What If series, the Zombie Captain America as part of the What If series on Veve, and so is who's the female Captain America? Peggy Carter. Captain Carter is like, she's Captain America or Captain Britain in one of the What If series. They had gone on and showed that for Marvel, they had advertised a new What If show, so What If Season 3. And we've gotten several drops because of that before. And this time they're teasing Star Wars in the show. And in the first season, the writers wanted to include Luke Skywalker and his X-Wing in like one of the Guardians of the Galaxy episodes. And they said no, they shot it down. But now they're teasing the official, like Lucasfilm Star Wars, like studio in it. Do you guys think that we get more drops from that because they didn't give us any Star Wars stuff on May 4th, 5th, and 6th, which is May the 4th be with you, Revenge of the 5th, Return of the 6th, etc.? Or do you think this is just me having a little too much fun with things that have been overplayed, like the metaverse or multiverse theory?
I don't know. I can say I don't know. It seems like they usually don't miss that date. So if they miss that date, it's nothing was queued up, or they've got some bigger plan. I don't know which of the two it is.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I definitely thought about that. I saw some tweets where people were they were complaining. I think it's funny that they were complaining. I think there's a way to point it out and ask a question and be like, hey, I'm really interested in why. I feel like this is a missed opportunity, but like on May the 4th to do a drop with Disney, with Star Wars. And I'm like, I don't disagree with that. And even if they're doing it like, because my understanding is there were some announcements from Cryptoys around that time too. So maybe somehow they didn't want to overshadow like something there. At the same time though, right, if I'm like, okay, who's my cash cow right now? I'm giving them priority on like announcing on May 4th, or we do it at the same time, right? But I do think that there are opportunities like that on certain days for certain fandoms to release products there. But to other people's points, like this isn't the first time that they didn't do something on May the 4th, right? But the month of May is when they're doing a lot of Star Wars drops, and that's cool. But I do agree with like the hype is. I'm seeing everyone tweet out May the 4th be with you. I tweeted it out, right? I think it's a perfect opportunity to do that. It is interesting as to. I'd love to know why, and there could be some legitimate reasons as to why. But did you go for, or are you going for the Sandcrawler? Is that what that's called?
Probably not. I love Star Wars, and I think that's why I spent an arm and a leg collecting the number 43 Lukes. But I've gone super hard into the lore, and I've spent more time than I'd like to admit watching the movies and reading the books. But that Sandcrawler stuff is cool. We've seen that obviously in the old stuff. We've seen it in The Mandalorian, but right now it's probably not going to be worth the money, at least right now. It will eventually, but right now I think for me the big thing is going to be to save for the Black Wing stuff.
Yeah,
it's not high on my priorities list. I like it, but a lot of these drops, they end up pulling back, and then I can buy them cheaper. So is that one high on my priority list? It's a medium on my priority list.
Yeah, it's for me, like I love Star Wars things, but I thought the price is too high for what it is, honestly. I mean, we see a lot of vehicles, and $50, I'm like, I'm not going to go for it for $50. If it was $20, I'd probably go for it, on the drop. Yeah, I was like 20, that's like a pretty big, like good sweet spot for me. So we'll see. Like, I don't think that it will, like Rain said, like, I don't think it'll retain its, like, I think it'll go below drop price in the secondary market. But I like it. And I like that that's happening. Now, the one vehicle, well, there's two vehicles, vehicles. There's two objects that I would absolutely go for on the drop, depending on the price. But the Millennium Falcon, I mean, that would be a big deal for me. I mean, again, depending on the number that they were doing and the price, and hopefully they get something like that right, and then obviously, man, the Death Star, if they could do like a Death Star and you could like get it smaller initially and have like the, dude, I just blinked out on that green laser. I know what that's called too, but, oh my gosh, if they could get the animation where like, and you could buy Alderaan or something, right?
And blow it up.
Alderaan?
Buy it to blow it up.
That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. And even if it was just like the animation on the Death Star was, it shoots that green laser, and man, I'm gonna look that up. That's gonna bother me. And there's an explosion effect, and then you could just put like Alderaan or like whatever, something there, right? And it's just like, like, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing there. So those are the two quote unquote like objects or vehicles that I mean I would really like to see. And if it was $50, I would 100% go for both of those. Hands, like absolutely $50. Sandcrawler at $50. It's not a big enough like item for me. Like that's very secondary there. And I love the Jawas. Like I love all that, but yeah, I just think that's overpriced there.
Yeah, and eventually, and it might start with OMI to NFT, which I think we get this quarter, so maybe the next 6 to 7 weeks. But I think that at some point we'll be able to go and get everyone will go and get these every single Star Wars drop. And when you talk about true Star Wars fans that will collect everything Star Wars, this is nothing. 2,410 mints is nothing, and they'll get this, and this will go to hundreds of dollars. But for right now, like, when does that happen? When do they come in? We have no idea. I mean, you have rare Luke Skywalker, which is like $40, and people are obviously going to want a rare Luke Skywalker as opposed to the Sandcrawler thing that's only seen in two different pieces of media. So they're just not here yet. When they come in, everything will blow the heck up. But as of right now, it's like I said, not too high on my priority list, like Rain said.
Yeah, I just spent a bunch more buying OMI. I just confirmed that 5 million more OMI was purchased. I'm like, sweet. That's a high priority for me. A few collectibles are a priority for me. Like I just bought I didn't have a Dr. Octopus secret rare. I just picked up 2 of them, right? They were trading about 60 gems. Cool. Yeah. Everyone's kind of forgotten about that one. The animation is unreal and it's cool and nobody's thinking about it. It's a secret rare with a good villain. Not that many mints for the secret rare and trading it like $60. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, we also have originally we were told that for the lightsabers, hey, we're going to have the collectibles that are going to be able to have the lightsabers and they'll be able to like coexist together. We don't have Mace Windu. We don't have Kylo Ren. I mean, we have Luke Skywalker for the Skywalker lightsaber, but we don't have Yoda. Like, there's a bunch of things that we're going to be able to get, and and I know they have to save stuff for future drops, but when do we get those? And I kind of want your guys. I want your guys' opinions on why Star Wars is going and letting Cryptoys have Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, Bo-Katan Kryze, and Grogu and Yoda. Like, why did they give them stuff? My hypothesis is that they want to have a little more leverage against Veve, because right now Veve has all the leverage. They have the most amount of people spending money. They make them the most money. They have the most active users, and just they have all of the most. They have other licenses as well. So I think that what Cryptoys wants to do is they want to give some other license, some of their characters to other people like Cryptoys, saying like, hey, if you go and make us a little bit money, I can go back to Veve and say, okay, well, now we can negotiate better terms. It seems like, and again, that's my hypothesis, and it seems like if they were doing that, they are doing horrendously at it because it's not working. But I just want your guys' thoughts on that.
Best not to have all your eggs in one basket, right? And so that also applies to them selling their licenses for different things. So I think they're just diversifying a little bit.
Yeah, I think the diversification is important. And if we want the space to grow, we do need other platforms to get FAs of things. Like we do, right? And like Cryptoys, like their whole platform is structured completely different than Veve, right? They're going to have this little metaverse, universe-ish type thing where you can play with your toys. Like, these are toys. I like the idea of, what do they call it? Because Big A, I know that Big A was purchasing some Cryptoys, and maybe he can remember. I can't remember what they called it, like a parent child like NFT like structure or something like that, right? Where the character was one NFT, the lightsaber was a separate NFT, and those are kind of like interchangeable. I love some of the things that they're doing there, right? And again, like, my only complaint, I still and I'll say this, right? When I talk about if people are frustrated or something like that, and they can say their piece, right, and then just kind of I guess like leave. I haven't necessarily left Cryptoys. Like, I'm standing by the sides. I'm not complaining about them all the time, but like I still really feel quite frustrated at what they did to their for like
the logos.
Yeah, the BOGOs, right? They're like, I was one of the first people to buy stuff on that platform. Okay, like from the Veve community. Because I got introduced to Cryptoys at NFT NYC 2023. I was there, and Steph Sudo, she was awesome, super energetic, and she just was like, hey, can I interview you on a new project? And so we were talking, and she was telling me a little bit about Cryptoys. I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like Veve. And she's like, yeah, we love Veve. We love what they're doing. And so I did this blind box, and I got like a He-Man. I saw the animation. I was like, this is awesome. I love the animation. I love what you guys are doing there. So then I bought a decent bag of Cryptoys and things, and then they do this buy one, get one right after. And what does that do? That literally cuts everything I have in half, right? Like, so if there was a marketplace out at the time, the value of whatever I purchase is worth half of that, right? With no announcement, nothing to even like, hey, for the OG like initial believers, right, that supported us from the get-go, here's an airdrop, nothing on that. That's very disappointing. And so for me, like, because of that, I've kind of just been like frustrated where I just haven't felt like I want to buy anything from there anymore, right? Because I'm not even acknowledged. So again, when I see that there are people Veve who are upset and they make a lot like legit complaint, I'm like, I feel you. I can get on board with that, you know. But like I hope that Cook Toys succeeds, you know, even with like how frustrated I am about that. I want them to succeed, and we'll see. Even though I still haven't pulled the trigger on buying anything anymore. Once they roll out their little like metaverse thing, I might play around with my toys and stuff, and I might get my kids to sit there and play with it too, right, and see how that goes. So anyway,
it's really cool at digital collectibles that you can actually use your 3D collectibles without opening the box. Like I had this problem, right? I found a Storm Shadow, and I had been looking for one in the store for forever. And I bought a Storm Shadow, which is a G.I. Joe, the White Ninja G.I. Joe, which was like an epic, like it's done tremendous. But I was a kid. At some point, I unboxed it. I just had to play with it. Why? Because it was Storm Shadow. But like with your Veve collectibles, you can use it in AR. You can play with it, essentially play with it, and it doesn't hurt the resale value.
Yeah, I love that packaging thing that they did too, right? So even though I'm frustrated, right, I can still like talk about the merits of their project and some of the things. I love the animation and the music that goes along with that. I really think that Veve should do something like that. I really do. I know that they got a lot of other things that they're focusing on, but like the user experience is so important. That dopamine hit. I was like, this is awesome. I love that. So props to them on that. And like Big A said, like he leaned into it, right? He was like, yep, I bought these. Well, now I'm going to dollar cost average. I mean, that's the equivalent of what he did, right? He's like, well, I'm going to just dollar cost average and get that down. For me, yeah, I was just like, now I'll just say this, like he said that he bought 25 cubes. He got 2 Ultra Grails. I'd have to go back and look at how many I bought. I spent a hefty sum, at least 25 cubes, if not more originally, and got nowhere near an Ultra Grail. So congrats. That's awesome on that. And yeah, like, I mean, there was other people who got burned by that. And again, I'm sad that I like Will, and like that whole Metamona interview, there was many times that he could have leaned into those, what I felt like were ridiculous questions and gone after Veve, right, as a competitor, and instead really kind of defended him and showed a lot of class there, right? So I like Will. I'm very disappointed that he's never addressed this or said anything about that, you know. These are the fans. These are fans. And like it would have gone a long way for him just to say like, hey, we had to make this decision, or like, you know, we felt like doing this advertising, this would bring more people in, you know, and for those, yeah, I mean, I don't know like what he can and can't do, but an airdrop or something like that would have been like, I don't think that would have cost a lot for the people to do that and just say, hey, sorry for this, you know, but you guys are true OGs. Here's this. But yeah, so I agree. And shout out to Frokomi. If you guys haven't seen his amazing memes and things that he does and his love for Electra, you got to follow him on Twitter. It's I look forward to when I open X, you know, and if like there's this notification that he's made some, I just always laugh. So just high quality individuals in this community. And speaking of which, Bill Gardner is another one of those, and Sleeping Comics.
Yeah.
I want to say something to Sleep In. I am also bitter. I see all of these awesome tweets about your sleeping hats. I had no idea how to get them. I've been jealous for ages, especially on the secret rare ones. Man, I got to figure out how to get one of your hats, Sleep In. I'm bitter about that, you know. So I just have to say that. But Sleep In was just on. I think he's done a couple interviews recently, right? Because Sleep In was on Superstar Money recently, but weren't you on another one too? And he has his own channel. But you guys don't follow Sleep In on Twitter and on his YouTube channel. Excellent insights on comics, and highly intellectual individual, very successful individual as well. So a lot of quality people in this community. Kumo, shout out to you, Kumo. I've wanted to. Man, there's twice that you've been on around the Comiiverse, and I haven't been there. look forward to talking with you at some point there. Yeah, so it looks like there's some others that kind of stopped after the BOGO, felt kind of burned by that, and then there's people like Big A who just like lean into it, and that's epic. Like, and again, I'm not out there attacking cryptoids, right, and being like, what a scammer and a liar and things. I'm like, that's frustrating, and right now I feel like I'm just gonna like put my money elsewhere, and maybe I'll come back, right, like because that is one thing that I've told people is you try to take the emotion out if you're thinking about investing. And I do think Veve and some of these things long term, and I'm thinking very long term, right, that digital collectibles becomes mainstream at some point in the future. And some of these could be very valuable, but you got to take the emotion out of that. I haven't done that yet with cryptoids. I didn't do that with Solana for a while. Dr. Profit and shout out to Dr. Profit and Danny DeBoll, because they were like, Solana this is like Solana's doing great things. And I was like, screw Solana. I was in 3 projects in 2021, at the end of 2021, that did their TGE. They were Solana projects. And those projects at the TGE, Solana broke. Like the chain stopped working, right? Because of this TGE. Rain, one of them was Soul Chicks. I don't know if anyone remembers Soul Chicks, but they had NFT.
I do.
Of this game. And so Soul Chicks, like they launched their token and the blockchain broke. It stopped working. And like the token value, like it just tanked. It destroyed the TGE and the momentum and things like that. It happened 3 times in December. And I was like, I will never go back to Solana. So fast forward right to like last year, and Dr. Profit and Danny Bull are like, Solana, I'm telling you, Solana. And I was like, yeah, I'm never touching it. And then as it was moving, I was like, all right, I got to swallow my emotion and just look at this from like a more investor standpoint. And I'm seeing that they have fixed some things and there's some improvements along the way, and people still love to develop on it. And there's a lot of movement there. I'm like, all right, I'll buy into Solana. I bought in at like $40. It's great. It's great for me, So anyways, that was a little tangent. I'm sure at some point I will go back and get some more crypto things, because I want us to succeed, and we need that competition, because then that forces, and this is where I'm like, hey, so Candy is going interoperable, and that's DC, Veve. Why isn't DC stuff interoperable? I think that it's a fair question, and it puts pressure on Veve, right, to push that forward. So I love the competition. That was well said, Fro.
So they just announced that in the next couple of months, I don't know actually when it's going to happen, but it'll be very quickly, that you will be able to buy Disney, Hulu, and HBO Max in a bundle. They have all 3. I mean, Disney owns majority share in Hulu, so it's really 2. It's WB that owns, or whoever owns HBO Max that has a bunch of the DC stuff, and Disney and Hulu. You'll be able to buy a bundle for them, and you won't have to buy 3 separate things. You'll be able to pay one price and have all of them. There's been this theory that Disney would buy WB or buy DC for like 10 years now, 12, 15 years now. But whether the government would let them try to do it or not, or whether Disney would kind of grease the palms and say like, hey, we can do this. I think there's a way that eventually all of everything that's DC could become Disney. And then also that DC Comics, even if that doesn't happen, DC Comics would eventually come onto Veve, just because they make like next to nothing on Candy. They make next to nothing on those comics, those resales, just because there's not a lot of people there. There's just no community. And again, if we should be able to maybe not expect everyone all the time to do the right thing, but expect people, especially corporations, to do what's good for them. And what's good for them is making money. And the most amount of money they would make is on Veve. And that's likely what they would do at some point, whether that happens now or that happens X amount of years from now, whether they have to wait for that deal to go through with HBO Max and everything, whatever. But I think eventually all roads might lead to them being on Veve, whichever path they take. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could just be a moon boy here.
It would make sense. Like, they've really had a hard time really getting their thing going off. Now, maybe when the momentum comes in, that Candy will take off. But if not, they're going to be looking at all the money that Veve's making and being like, why don't we just launch on their platform? Veve's going to handle most everything for us, and we get this licensing fee. And especially if we push it from our side, boy, we'll sell a whole lot of collectibles, and we'll take that licensing fee plus whatever upfront fee they might make, which I don't know how those negotiations work. Yeah, cool. And that doesn't mean your collectibles on Candy wouldn't be worth something. They would be first appearances down the road. Like, they might still end up being worth a ton. Yeah, so.
And that's not the only place that DC has. Like, they have Backhouse season 2 that they're doing. I remember in the first Backhouse movement that they had, there was like 12,000 or X amount of either tens of thousands or hundred thousands Backhouse that they were promoting, and like, oh well, we expect this to sell out, and whatever doesn't sell out will just burn. And I think they sold like maybe 12,000 of them, or 12, however many they sold. It was like a fraction of what they expected to sell.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work for season 2 of Backhouse and Hero. Like, I have Hero stuff that I've never sold. I have some Hero stuff that I've never opened because maybe it might be worth something someday. If you were to ask me outside of Veve, what's going to be the best thing that might survive, I would probably say Cryptoys, just because they've survived and they have a run rate that the CEO seems confident that they'll survive, even without a secondary market, which it looks like they're going to get in the next couple months. It looks like they're going to have that game coming out before the end of the year. So I wouldn't say Candy, and I wouldn't say Crypt, and I wouldn't say Hero, even though I have some Hero stuff, and I have a bunch of friends that are super into Backhouse, and some friends that paid X amount of money for their for some of their comics that are over on Candy. I would say it's Cryptoys, because DC has had they spread their stuff everywhere, and even with the movies, they've continuously dropped the ball over the last couple decades. So yeah, that's just kind of my thesis on it.
Yeah, I put a bunch into Hero. I haven't bought any in Cryptoys. I hope Hero survives. They still owe me $2,400. One of my orders got returned to them, signed back into their warehouse, and I reached out to them, and I'm like, send it to me. I don't know why it got returned to you. I never saw it at my place. And they're like, oh, we can't. It's no longer there. And it's like, okay, refund me the $2,400. And nothing back from them. No further responses on the ticket. I've reached out to people in the Veve community that know them. They told me who to contact over there. I contact them. Nothing. That $2,400, like $2,400 is a lot of money and not a lot of money. In the bear market, that is a crap ton of money, because I know how to turn that $2,400 into a lot more than that. And it's like a black hole with them. It's like, wait, can you just send me my $2,400 back? Like, come on, HRO. Like, I can't buy anything else from you until I get that back, because like, that's ridiculous. And I sent all the proof in the ticket of like, okay, here was the shipping and everything. And here's where it says in the shipping thing that it was signed back into your warehouse. Nothing from them. It's just a black hole over there. And it's like, come on, guys. So I got tired of trying to follow up on it, because then they continue to burn my time, which has a value too. I'm like, guys, I'll just tell everyone the truth about you until you pay me my $2,400. Your choice.
Yeah.
Like, I want to like you. I thought the whole hybrid thing was a great idea. Cool. Can you just take care of, like, hey, I'd still prefer to get the cards. If you can send me the cards, cool. The series 1 cards or the season 1 cards. Like, I don't want later seasons of them. I want those, or just refund me my money. Cool. And we'll be good. I get nothing from them.
I feel you.
Yeah, $2,400 too. Come on, guys. Give me
Yeah,
buy more OMI with that. I know what OMI's going to do. And then, then we'll be right. You'll be right by me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could turn to $250,000 over the next 12 to 15 months.
I effing know. Yeah, I know. It's like, come on.
Go ahead, Randy. I got another.
I will use that $240,000 that it turns into or more to buy a Lambo, and then I'll put HRO on the license plate just for you guys.
Do we want to do I forget who, I can't find the comment before, but someone was asking about a OMI price prediction, or should we save that for later and after we do the rest of the stuff? Like, we have the being part of Veve history with the video. We have the X-Men artists excited for the Blackpink drop. We have the political stuff, like new candidates been coming out for crypto. What do y'all want to talk about first?
All of it. Oh, first, the new candidate, or I wouldn't call him a new candidate.
No, he's not new. It's just
I think two of the
position.
three candidates are very pro crypto, and the other one, I'm sure the other one's going to say, "Oh, I'm pro crypto." You're in office right now, and your SEC has done everything it can to end crypto. So I don't care what you say. We know what your actions show.
If we're talking about everything, we'll start off with something. You guys want to stay on top? I guess this is still on topic. One of the things was that, I haven't been home in a couple months. I'm in Ohio right now, and I experienced my first tornado yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. And I was like dropping a friend off at where he was going, and I got 2 text messages. One that said, "Hey, there's a tornado warning in your area. It's going to be over to 10:45." I was like, "Oh God, I still have to pick up this Pizza Hut pizza that I ordered." And then it was like, "Okay, it's like 10:50. Okay, we're good." And I got another text message say the tornado's like in action until 11:15. I was like, "Oh my God, the alarms are going off." But what I realized with this tornado warning was that one of the things I thought of when I got to my base of operations where I'm at now is that if a tornado hits this place and it actually damages it, there's like $1 million worth of art that's just going to be gone. It's going to be destroyed. And hopefully my friend, has it insured, but if he doesn't, that's gone. Whereas I have, 1,500 comics and collectibles on my phone. And if this gets punted out a window and this phone that gets destroyed, that's fine. I could just sign into a new account, or I could sign in on a new phone to my old account, and all those collectibles are fine. This is where I think digital collecting is a little superior, and it's superior in a lot of ways, but this is just one of the scenarios in which I think it's easier and people have a lot less stress just because it's safe. Whether you have your OMI on there, whether you have your collectibles on there, they're not going to get damaged. They're not going to degrade. You don't have to worry. You don't have to get flood insurance on them. You don't have to get tornado or any type of insurance on them. That's just my. What do y'all think?
I'm getting tornado insurance on my Todd McFarlane Batmans.
Man, I'm telling you guys, flood insurance and things, it can be crazy expensive, right? And that's a great point. Is even if they have that insurance, there's that cost associated with, like, every month, right, that you got to pay to insure those high valued items in case something like that happens. And you're right, like you don't have to. There's like not a monthly fee, right, to protect your digital collectibles. Don't get any ideas, any of you NFT platforms. Has something along those lines there. But I was spaced where I was going with that because I was just seeing some of these comments. I thought it was very interesting here with Scott, right, that lives and works in New York and has never met someone. Right?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about it.
I'll just say that Biden got more votes than any presidential candidate in history, and I don't dispute that. My question is, did he get more voters than any president in history? I noticed that Biden, they always say he got more votes, and I'm like, as far as we can tell, that might actually be true, but he never says the word voters. So I'm like, oh, interesting,
So there's a I forget who did the poll. I don't know if it was the university or if it was like New York Times or whatever. And they asked, like, hey, do you think, and they polled mostly Democrats. And they said, do you think it's a concern that Biden refused to take his competency test? And like the majority of them, like 80% of them said, yes, that is a concern. But then they asked a follow-up question. They said, is that going to affect your vote for him? And overwhelmingly, like 90% of them said, no, that's not going to affect my vote. Like they'll still vote for him. So that either means one of two things, maybe three things, but I think the majority of one or two things. One is that they are so anti-Trump, they would rather see like a monkey or anything, like a table, some inanimate figure be president as opposed to Trump, and they're that far gone from reality, or they're like, hey, I understand that Biden is probably not fit to be president. However, comma, the other people in his cabinet and this essentially shadow government is going to be president for him, and they're okay with that.
Yeah.
So that to me says that a lot of people are okay with a lot of shady and really not good stuff going on with the government, as long as it fits the narrative of anyone but Trump, or it fits the narrative as like, as long as my life doesn't change too much and they agree with what I believe in. And that could be fine in some scenarios. In this scenario, I don't think it is fine, but what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think because it's such a large majority of them, right? Really, the way they categorize it is people I trust are making their decisions there. Biden isn't, but people I trust are, and that's who they're voting for, even though they don't necessarily know. They just generalize it as, well, people I trust are running that, and I don't trust Trump is what they're saying. And I get that. There's party loyalty, right? That they would vote for like table salt over the candidate that they hate. So that's really what they're saying, and they're really just saying like people I trust are making these decisions. They have I don't know how competent Biden's been for a while, but his administration still runs according to what those people like, and so what they're saying is I'd rather see that continue than this Trump guy, in their views, how they see it.
Yeah, and look, instead of going off the tangent on just politics in general, I think sticking, and the reason we're bringing this up, right, is because Trump basically was like, hey, like, I'm all right with crypto. We have seen a pretty like anti-crypto narrative coming from Biden, and like, so you've got Elizabeth Warren, right, and then her appointee, basically her lapdog is Gensler, and so we've seen this anti-crypto like attack. Now, I have to say something though, right? Trump also said he's like, as long as everything checks out. So he kind of left himself a back door there. And there is concern. I'm going to tell you guys right now, right? Governments are looking at crypto as a threat in general, because their whole ecosystem is we control the money, we control the interest rates and things, and we control those flow of funds, right? But with crypto, they can't do that as much. But here's this weird catch-22, right? You know, like the largest purchaser, okay, like in the top 10 largest purchasers of US Treasuries, guess who one of those is? Guess. Do you guys know?
USDT.
USDT is one of the top 10 largest purchasers of U.S. Treasuries. Like, so when the government's printing money, right? Like they've got to sell that to someone, and it's ironic that now it's like they're tying themselves to stable coins now, to where it's almost to the point where like they're like what do we do? Because if we cancel stable coins, then we don't have this outlet for purchasers. A significant purchaser of treasuries, because China slowed down on that and India slowed down, Russia slowed down on that. Fascinating conundrum that they put themselves in, but that is that threat there, right? Because then they don't control the money flow, and they're saying, well, then how can we impact the economy? How can we make these decisions? And it's like, well, what's happening is you're just freaking debasing our currency, right? And you're putting us in this crazy, terrible cycle where it's like, you can't rate, you have to keep interest rates high to combat inflation, right? But then the government continues to spend all of this money. So then people are like, well, now inflation is well, there's this debasement of the currency. So my dollar doesn't go as far. And so now I need a raise to be able to pay for the same things I was paying for before, which then creates inflation, right? Which then, so it's this crazy cycle. And that's why I think that a lot of people are just migrating to crypto. And why I think it's important to look at someone who's like, who is pro crypto and is going to look at establishing. We need some guidance. We need some guidelines. We need some regulation around it. Otherwise, it's just chaos, and we can't have chaos either, right? But we need something. And so someone who's like, I want to look into it and find out what makes sense. You've got Europe. You've got like Japan. You've got a lot of other countries that are actually putting regulations out there so that the crypto industry can grow, right? And so I think that's why we wanted to talk about this. It's like to hear a presidential candidate saying like, hey, as long as this makes sense, like I'm for crypto. That's a big deal for people who believe in crypto, right? So
Big A summarized it perfectly. Yeah, probably Trump is better than Biden for crypto, but I'm skeptical that it will be by much. He is openly very pro-dollar and feels crypto threatens that. Agreed. It wouldn't be hard to be more pro-crypto than Biden. Under Biden, the SEC has been trying to destroy crypto, and they say, oh, it's to protect the investor. It's not to protect the investor. It's to protect banks or whatever else. They're threatened by this change. Old existing businesses are threatened by this new industry, and they're trying to rein it under control and bring it under them and not let these new upstart businesses innovate. And what they're doing is they're just pushing the money to all these other countries that are going to innovate it, and it's going to be pushed out of the U.S. and because it's still going to happen. And this has happened in U.S.'s history. In fact, it's happened in Europe's history. And this is why true free markets need to happen. And the U.S. doesn't have a true free market right now. And regulators are being used as a tool enforcement of established interests to not allow these new upstarts to come in and displace them, or at least that's what they're trying to do. And they're using Gary Gensler of the SEC. Like, you could have a full debate between Gary Gensler before he was at the SEC and Gary Gensler now, and they would be like arguing with each other over the points. So clearly he's acting under what he's being instructed to do by Elizabeth Warren or whoever. And it's been very anti-crypto. So will Trump be pro-crypto? Yes. How much more pro-crypto? It's unclear, because as Big A said, he's very pro-dollar, and Bitcoin and crypto threatens that. So how good will he be? Well, he couldn't be worse than Biden. I hope he ends up being really good if he does win. I think, what's his name? RFK will be the most pro-crypto out of those. I can't say I think RFK has a real shot, but I think of the candidates, he would be the most pro-crypto. If that's like this single issue that you're interested in, I would say he understands and is more pro-crypto for the right reasons than either of the other two candidates.
There's a lot to go over here. One, you have a bunch of politicians, doesn't matter which ones, they want to just cut taxes, which is fine. If you can cut spending enough, then maybe you can cut taxes. But if you just cut taxes and then the government keeps spending, then the real cost of government isn't what it taxes, but it's what it spends. And it's not something that we're going to pay for in the future. It's something we've been paying for the past couple of years with quantitative easing. You've had the amount of groceries go up, you've had inflation go up, you've had the rates that the Federal Reserve has go up, which Biden has actually frozen. He's actually frozen the rates. They haven't gone up, they haven't gone down. We were supposed to get a rate cut. If we were to get a rate cut, I think we were supposed to have that in January, then you would have had, let's say, like 5 trillion, give or take, in money market accounts that would have ripped into the markets. And in like half a year, you would have seen like a whole market melt up. You would have seen just insane gains, but they didn't have that. And I don't know why the Biden administration didn't push them to do that, because now they've frozen it, because they realize if they hike rates more, that's just the final nail in the coffin. Biden won't get elected. So they've frozen that. If they were to go and do it now, or at least next month, they wouldn't really get the majority of those gains up until around the election or after that. So I don't think that's going to happen. We should talk off camera for a little bit about who's going to be a little bit, I do have a little bit of alpha on that, but you have also on top of that where USDT is like, okay, like we've had quantitative easing for such a long time, and the government just printing money, and now it's okay, well, we're not having to print money, we could just print USDT, and it's just going to take a longer time for that to flow into the dollar and flow into that inflation rate. So they can print USDT whenever they want, and people won't really feel it as much as if they just print it with quantitative easing with the Federal Reserve. As far as the presidency, you have a bunch of one-issue voters. A lot of one-issue voters. A lot of my friends, they really like the environment and the world, and those one-issue voters, which Trump is a little bit lax on. Maybe they vote for a lot of the environment, because no environment, no earth. That's fine, whatever. But a lot of newer people especially a lot of people that can donate massive amounts are a little bit more like, hey, whatever is best for America, and they believe that it happens to be Trump. Every single, and I not necessarily who I'd vote for, not necessarily who I'm in favor for, but just what it looks like when you have like the right to shelter. So let's say I was supposed to have breakfast with Mayor Adams a few months ago, back in November, for the Thanksgiving Day parade, before that were to happen. But it was like a week before then, Mayor Adams had like a bunch of what's that called? Investigations into his administration over in New York, saying like, hey, a bunch of campaign money and stuff like has kind of gone missing, and a bunch of these things are happening. And so I was going to ask him about the right to shelter that they had in New York, which you've seen a lot in California, you've seen a lot of Democratic states. But the right to shelter means that you have any immigrant can come into New York and say like, hey, I'm a person that is seeking asylum. I'm a person that is an immigrant from whatever country, doesn't matter where they're from, and they could have a right to shelter. And New York has to pay for that. And New York taxpayers have to pay for that. And outside of the hotels and Airbnbs, like now the cost of Airbnbs and the cost of hotels have gone up. So when we're trying for New York Comic Con later this year, or anyone that wants to vacation there, they have to pay a higher cost from that. So there's taxes on the money that you make, there's taxes on the money that you spend, and then there's the inflation tax. The inflation tax is something that nobody really talks about. It's the tax that, hey, I used to be able to spend, like $5 or $7 for a pound of like grilled chicken. Now I have to pay like $14, $15 for it. I used to be able to pay like $130 a night for a hotel. Now I have to pay $300 a night for that. A lot of these things are, if you look at the polls, and a lot of the polls are done by universities, they're done by Democratic syndicates, that they go and they say, who are you going to vote for? And Trump, if you look at that from a lot of Democratic polls, Trump wins a lot of those. So whether you like it or not, like in Lord of the Rings, episode 2 of the Two Towers, King Theoden says, I will not risk open war. And Aragorn says, well, open war is upon you, whether you would risk it or not. It looks like you're going to have a Trump presidency, whether you like it or not. And okay, yeah, if you want to go and immigrate to another country, if you want to go to Canada, if you want to go to Puerto Rico, wherever, sure, you can do that. But you're going to have to people are going to have to deal with the reality that Trump is likely going to be president, and it's going to be fine. There's not going to be a crazy amount of stuff that's going to change. It's going to be okay. I realize I've been talking for several minutes about this. I just chugged another beer while we did this. So by all means, go and ask that while I go get another beer. Answer that, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and people sleeping. And I just want to say this to everyone, right? Like everyone has their opinion, and I think it's so important. I try to do this on Twitter, whether it's about Veve or any project, right? We can all have our opinion, and we can agree to disagree on something. And just have mutual respect for that, right? And respect people's opinions and be like, oh, well, this is why I think this way. I mean, a lot of people's decisions, right, are based on their experience growing up, and what they experienced, and the policies that were implemented, or what things that happened with certain political parties while they were in power. Like, there's a lot of reasons behind that, right? So obviously, like, this is just a discussion, and it's just interesting, right, to have a presidential candidate talking about crypto. And that's why we brought it in there. And everyone's going to have their own point of view on that. I hope that there isn't this continuous clampdown on crypto. I think what's happening right now with the SEC, it's unreasonable. And I do believe, and I truly hope, so something that's interesting with the Coinbase lawsuit, right, that they, was it Coinbase, or there was another company that preemptively sued the SEC, and they did it in Texas specifically because there's different district courts, right? And so there was this New York judge, but what needs to happen is you need to have like one district court agree, decide or rule one way, and then another district court rule a different way, and then you can say, hey, we need to take this to a higher court, right? And I think that's the point, is like they do want to eventually get. They don't want it to get this far, but they're willing to take it that far to try to get it to the Supreme Court, right, to make a ruling, because they do feel like they have so many instances of Gary Gensler saying that ETH is a commodity. Like he said that before, right? And there's a lot of stances and things that they've done that also support that. So I think that that's like the hope is just what we're seeing right now in the political environment and the political party that's in power right now is very crypto unfriendly. And I just hope that overall, like, there is a shift there to where they can come together and start trying to create some rules. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this too, and maybe someone in the chat can help us out. But I know that there was just recently, like the last day or two, some votes or something that happened with the SEC basically saying that what they were doing, allowing financial institutions to hold crypto.
Yeah.
And voting against that. This is a big deal. Do you know, Rain, you want to speak to that? I'll look it up.
Well, yeah. So they made a ruling. So they're supposed to go through this rule review process, and they're supposed to get feedback when they're going to make a ruling on something. And they decided instead of going through the normal processes, that they weren't going to allow banks to custody crypto at all, and they didn't go through the normal process for that. And so the House hurried up and made a resolution, I think, on it. And 20 or so House Democrats voted with the Republicans on this against that they can't do that. And so I think it's still, I don't know if it has to go to the Senate from here, which, Democrats control the Senate. So if some Democrats are very pro crypto, is majority, it doesn't seem to be so pro crypto, but some are. And, yeah, so we'll see if the Senate does it. And then Joe Biden had promised he would veto that resolution or that bill. So we'll see how that shakes out. Like, clearly the SEC is trying to grab its arms around crypto and saying, we have dominion over this because these are all securities. And so that they can then control the direction of it. And it's very questionable whether they really should or not. The courts seem to be saying some jurisdiction in some cases, but it's really not clear based on the law. And so this is the SEC trying to grab a hold of it, and then they have to make the cases to the courts. But in this specific case, they're just making a ruling, banks can't custody crypto. And I guess banks could then, like, if the House resolution gets vetoed or something, then I guess probably there could be a court case and it would go before a judge, and the judge would likely say, you didn't go through the normal processes here. But in the meantime, that means that no banks can then custody crypto in the U.S. Funny enough, banks outside the U.S. are custodying crypto. We know of a company working with and making this happen outside the U.S. So all this is doing is it's putting technology behind in the U.S. Like this happened in New York City. Like New York City in the early 1900s was like a major hub of business and development. And this new thing called a horseless carriage was being developed, this new technology. But all the politicians were deeply in bed with the horse and buggy industry and the whip industry and the leather industry that provided saddles and stuff. And they're like, we don't like this horseless carriage thing. So they figured out how they were going to stop this innovation from happening. And they said these horseless carriages are just so unsafe that in our city, you have to walk in front of the horseless carriage with a person waving red flags. And so they passed these laws to protect people, but they weren't to protect people. That was just the excuse they used. It was tried to kill this innovation because they were getting bankrolled. Their campaigns were getting bankrolled by the existing industries, and they were trying to say how they were protecting people. So all the industry then moved to Detroit, Michigan. And that's why Detroit, Michigan became the hub, because they said, hey, we're hungry for innovation. We would love businesses to come here. So the car industry still happened. It just, none of it happened in New York City, happened everywhere else. And so now that so many laws, like the United States is supposed to be decentralized, but so many laws are now being passed at the federal level. And this thing called the Securities and Exchange Commission nationwide is now deciding they have authority over this because some laws that were passed in the 1930s, and deciding that they get to regulate this new thing that wasn't even foreseen by the people who wrote the laws in the 1930s, and trying to pass these regulations for the entire United States. So it can't just move to a different state necessarily. So it's moving out to other countries. El Salvador's like, okay, we're pro crypto. You know what? Google is just locating plant over there. Why? Because they cleaned up the crime. They're very pro innovation. And so a lot of this stuff, if Gary Gensler continues to be like the people passing the red flag laws, cool, the innovation is still going to happen. They don't have the power to stop it. It's just going to happen outside the U.S. The money's going to flow outside the U.S. and the U.S. is going to lose dominance, monetary dominance that they have now, and economic dominance. Why they have the most powerful military in the world? Because they have the most powerful economy in the world, which can then fund the most powerful military. But you make dumb decisions like this, then the most powerful economy goes to other countries. Cool. All right. That's the beauty of free markets and a global economy, is that it can just move other places.
A little bit of alpha.
So ironic. Just real quick, along those same lines is, think how much money. Okay, so there's a lot of raises for projects, right, that U.S. citizens can't participate in these raises. And think about how many tokens, and like, especially during bull runs and things, the price appreciation, the buys and sells that U.S. citizens are missing out on, that could be taxed, right? If I'm like the government and I'm thinking like, hey, we need more tax money because we're just going to overspend anyways, but like, let's get as much money as we can. Like that, you would want this to come into the U.S. I mean, look how much innovation and things happened. There was a point in time in the 90s where they were looking at basically really restricting and regulating the internet because they were afraid of all the things that the internet could bring and all the dangers and stuff. And instead, they kind of flipped and they passed some laws to basically open it up, right? And look how much innovation has happened in the U.S. because of that. Like Rain said, like the U.S. is at this this crossing, right, in the road where it's just like, or a fork in the road where it's like, if we go down this path, we're going to lose so much innovation and so much money flowing into the U.S. and to the economy because it's going to go somewhere else. It's going to go into Europe. It's going to go like Switzerland.
To El Salvador of all places, right?
Yeah, El Salvador. But like, so I said this, I think, on Around the Comeyverse, but I've been helping write this white paper kind of on the tokenization of real world assets, right? And you have the Bank of International Settlements that in 2023, they proposed kind of like a unified ledger type project where it's basically a collaboration between like governments and like a central bank digital currency / like some sort of stable coin, right? And private enterprise for cross-border payments and things. Like, but the now we do have, as part of that, the New York, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York is actually participating in that, that's a good sign, right? That they're interested in this and it's for cross-border payments. And then, but like all these other countries that already have kind of laws surround, like you've got Japan, you've got Switzerland, France, these way more crypto-friendly countries. Like that's where the innovation is going to flow to. Look at all these countries or companies that have moved to Dubai, right? Like they're not here in the US. And thank goodness for Coinbase, who's like, we're planting a flag here in the United States and we're going to fight the SEC to try to do this. Because they're spending a lot of money to try to defend the crypto space there, but it's just sad to see. So, anyways, I think that we have talked quite a bit about politicians and crypto, and hopefully, in the near future, we see a shift in the government's stance in general on crypto. And let us innovate.
There was a vote recently. The House voted to erase the SEC crypto policy. That's currently inactive right now, but Biden had vowed to veto it. I'll let you guys know that the Dems will likely control the House, and then they'll likely be good. They will likely be good on crypto. And there's been somebody that has been helping some moderate Dem senators get engaged as well. And I'll let you guys know in a little more details when we get off camera, but there will likely be some more positive things happening for crypto in the next year or so after people get elected.
There's some younger, very pro crypto Democrats, right? I listened to one out of New York and he made some great arguments. Like he totally gets it. He comes from a very poor area and he's like, inflation is killing my voters. And it is, like the poor are hurt the most by inflation because they don't have assets. And when inflation happens, people who are rich in assets, well, the assets usually go up. with inflation. And so they're usually protected from that. Who's most hurt by inflation? The poor. And this guy gets it. And he says, I want an off-ramp for them. I want a place for them to be able to go. And crypto is that. So he gets it, right? And there's some other Democrats that get it. Usually they're newer, right? So they're not getting huge campaigns from banks that don't want crypto to happen. Campaign contributions from those, right? So
yeah.
I'm not saying anything about Elizabeth Warren. I'm sure she went from her net worth being like 2 million to like 82 million over the past 8 years. I'm sure she did that all legitimately. I'm not quite sure how, but I'm sure it's legitimate.
All right. So taking it a little bit more off of crypto and politics and putting it back a little bit to Veve, if anyone wants to be included in something really big, Veve is likely either several hundred million, if not $1 billion. I would say at least $1 billion company, if not more than that. You're going to be able to go and be a part of Veve history in a video if you go and say, like, for example, hi, my name is Randy Chavez, and I collect Marvel Mighties on Veve. You can go and do that type of thing. But if you don't collect Marvel Mighties, say, like, hi, I collect dinosaurs on Veve, and you show a bunch of the Jurassic Park things that you have. You can go and do that. I think this is something that everyone should try to do. And if they make it, again, it's a 4-second clip and over a larger amount of Veve video. But this is something that I think Veve could eventually be $1 trillion company. But even if they're not, even if they're just worth maybe 100 billion at some point in the future, this is something that you could be a part of, and you could show your children, your grandchildren, and saying, like, hey, this is a company that is big enough to be on the New York Stock Exchange. It's big enough to be, it's in millions of people's lives all over the world, and I'm a part of it. They featured me in a video. Have you guys gone on and done it? Why have you done it? Or if you haven't, why haven't you done it yet?
So sorry, Randy. I was just reading a DM from Kumo that said that he sent me a DM, so I'll have to touch base with him. So can you repeat that question again? My apologies.
Yeah, sure. So Veve the other day had posted a video with, I think, old rhubarb, and they said, hey, we're going to do a really big video, and if you can go and you can give us like a 4 to 5 second clip saying, hi, my name is Randy Chavez, and I collect Marvel Mighties on Veve, and showing it, and then that's it. That's all you need to do. You could be over and saying, it doesn't have to be Marvel Mighties, but I collect DC comics, or not DC comics, DC collectibles, or I collect dinosaurs, and you could have that. You could be a part of this massive video, because it seems like they are doing some advertising right now for some really big people. You could be a part of that, and I'm curious if you guys have done it, and if you have, why have you done it? And if you haven't done it, why haven't you done that yet? Why don't you want to be a part of history?
Objection, leading the witness. Why don't you want to be a part of history? I love that.
Yeah, why not?
So great. Look, so I have not done it yet. That being said, I do want to do it, right? But and there are reasons why, like, I haven't fully doxed myself. So if I do it, it'll just be, hey, my name is Doc, and I collect such and such. And we'll see if that passes the sniff test for them. Maybe they want people to use their real name. I will not be doing that. So that's why I haven't done it yet. But I'll make a video, right? And say that I'm Doc. I'd love to be a part of that. I absolutely would. I thought this was awesome. Hi, my name is I am Sandbox, and I have a complete Marvel Mighty set. That's what I'm talking about. Sandbox, make a video and be part of, Veve history. I think that is great. And while Randy is going out and getting something, can I just say, I am so stoked that Veve just subscribed to my channel. That is awesome.
Sweet.
Yes. Thank you so much. Shout out to Veve. Was not expecting that. This is a cool night. This is a cool night for me. So thank you. And hey, anyone else watching, I would love it if you could. And here's my little thing here, right? Is smash, push, crush, or even gently caress. Just the like, subscribe, and all notifications buttons on all of our channels, right? Definitely appreciated. And like I got a shout out to Turtle Golf and Squid Cat, right? They helped me with a giveaway on my channel, trying to get me to 1,000 subscribers. That would be awesome. And man, work has been so crazy. I have not been able to put out the content I want. And one thing that I'm about to do, which I'm really excited for, is I'm about to meet up with Patient Hodler. I'm taking the family to Germany and to Prague, and so I'm going to meet up with Patient Hodler. And
nice.
It's so cool to be able to travel. I've met people in San Francisco, in New York, in Arlington, Virginia, like / Washington D.C., in LA, like all over the place. And now I get to meet some people in Europe, right? Part of the Veve fam. I'm so stoked for that. This community is worldwide. So awesome to be a part of that. So anyways, okay, Randy, go for it.
Shout out to, like, it does attract amazing people all over the world. Like, one of the reasons I've really enjoyed the community is, like, it attracts some really solid people with amazing business backgrounds and other things, like, you know, Sleep in Comics, who's on here. And I love his YouTube videos on comics and just the insight he provides. But business owner prior to this, and really, really smart, like many other people too. Mr. MC1E, like, right? Sanjay's got an amazing background. And people all over the world with amazing backgrounds are in the Veve fam.
Speaking of people with amazing backgrounds, there's someone we'll call Callyway. And Callyway is an artist for the X-Men show that is happening right now. And they are excited for Blackpink. And Rain tells the story. He told the story in Arizona recently, where we were at, about why the digital collectibles narratives will hit and in which ways it might hit. And if you wind the clocks back 5 years ago, NBA Top Shots was telling YouTubers with like 1,000 subscribers, hey, if you go in and you talk about us, we'll give you like 10 free packs, which is like a couple $100 worth. And they did, and not too much really happened. A couple of people got on, there's made a little bit of money, but NBA Top Shots didn't really take off until you had some major players that had a lot of fans and followers join in, like the stars of NBA Top Shots. So right now we have someone, again, we'll call her Callyway, that is super excited for the Blackpink drop. And they're excited to go for it. That's on Veve because they happen to be an artist for X-Men. They have a lot of followers. I think what it might take is just for one of these girls out of the 4, I think the minimum out of them has like, what, 50 million followers, 30 million followers, to go and say, hey, I got this drop on Veve, and then to show it to their 30 million fans. And even if 0.1% of people get that, that's 30,000 followers. That's 30,000 people that go in and get it. And if they do the type of drop that they've had recently, where no drop has been over like 4,000, 5,000 editions, you're going to have like I said, that big market melt up, that squeeze, going to make it rise in a very big way. Do you think that's something that I am saying, like, oh, well, Chavez, like a lot of these things have to line up for it to happen? It's probably not going to happen. Or, oh, hey, you might be right on this.
You are seeing the bigger crypto awareness. So part of it is, so we saw like phase 1 of the bull run is like a little bit of existing people putting more money in. Phase 2 starts when you have new people bringing new money in. We saw a little bit of that a month and a half ago as Bitcoin was hitting all-time highs. You had people moving into crypto for the first time. So you saw a little bit of that. And you see in the early stage of the bull run, a few projects take off. Bitcoin usually runs and meme coins run. Well, what are we seeing that? One of the things I like about OMI and Veve is people that don't understand crypto hardly at all can kind of wrap their mind around Veve, right? And they can get the app and then they can say, I want to buy the token associated with this. Or they just buy collectibles on the app. So at some point, this digital collectibles narrative is going to run. I don't know when, but as awareness grows in crypto or other things like these, exactly like what we saw with NBA Top Shots, big names posting about their moments and talking about it, then you start to see a run on it, and then it just goes crazy at some point. When that's going to happen is so hard to predict in the short term. If it comes together and it happens in the next 2 months, or if it happens in 9 months from now, I don't know. It's just more likely to happen, or highly likely to happen. I just don't know the time frame. But catalysts like what you're talking about could be what kick it off. It would take a few different big names like that. But kind of what happens is a few big names talk about it, and other people who have big names, they're like, they see that and they get involved, and then they post about it. And that kind of makes it take off. I like to think of it as like popcorn popping when you throw it in the microwave, and it kind of takes a while. And it's like, oh, nothing is happening. This popcorn is never going to pop. And then it's like pop, 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 then nothing, right? And you're like, and then pop, 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 pop. And that's exactly how it happens, is you start getting this pop, 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 and then it just goes crazy. And then if you're smart, you start taking some profits, because it doesn't pop for forever.
Yeah, that's exactly, I mean, what kind of drew me when you came to me, Rain, telling me about Veve, right, and this first Batman on the blockchain. The reason I was way more open to it is because over the last like month and a half, I'd started hearing things about NBA Top Shots, right? Like it kept, like you said, kind of popping up, and now there was like, oh, there's this one thing, and there's these moments, and it's NBA players, and I kind of looked at some of the things, and I was like, oh, like that's cool, but like it's like a video, like why do I want to own that, right? And like, but then I just started seeing it again and again, and then the prices, the sales, right? And then it was that LeBron James moment selling for $250K that I was like, yo, what is this? And then you're like, hey, Doc, check this out, right? And I was like, I still don't know what I'm buying, but I'm in, you know? And so, yeah, I think that could definitely do it again. And it does take multiple times, people's exposure to things. And that's why I think I'm so bullish on Veve in the long term. Is it's not just going to be Veve. If Veve is the only one doing this, we won't get mass adoption. We won't. Like, it's not going to happen. But we're already seeing companies that are coming back and to the well again and again. They'll try it and then they kind of leave, and then they're coming back into the space again. Like at some point, the Amazons and the Googles and the Apples of the world, right? I mean, the Apple Vision Pro. What do you like? That is a perfect connection to digital collectibles at some point in time, right? Like that's going to happen. And once the technology really matches up, and the technology on the crypto side where it's a lot easier and safer to store your assets and not get hacked and things, that's when things start really lining up, right? And so I believe that it'll be a lot of things that come together to make digital collectibles mainstream. But when we're talking about just like the collectibles themselves and a narrative within this upcoming, knock on wood bull run, I think there'll be multiple things that start kind of popping again, and then more and more people start talking about it, and then it starts to catch on fire.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It made me think of this centralized argument, right? Like coming into Veve, and like you can get these things, and it's fairly easy. I had a friend get his wallet hacked, and I don't know how his decentralized wallet, how somebody got access to it. Maybe clicked on a malicious link or something, but he's fairly new in crypto, and he had it all drained. And the cool thing about centralized that I didn't bring up earlier is that, like, if your Veve account gets hacked, they can go in and you submit a form and everything, and they can reverse those transactions. So there is some positives to centralized over decentralized. Decentralized is great until all of a sudden your funds are stolen and it's irreversible to get that back. Or you send it to the wrong address because you're new, or the wrong chain, and it's just gone.
Well, and this is one thing that's really funny. Like, and we kind of talk about that, like decentralization very early on in Ethereum's history. Right, there was that massive hack of the DAO. What was that called? What DAO was that? I can't remember. But basically, like the majority of nodes voted to hard fork, right, and basically unwind that transaction. But that's not true decentralization, like, because basically they unwound that hack, and like it's the equivalent of a centralized exchange being, a centralized party being like, we're going to take that from you and give it back. So we're just going to hard fork that. And so, that chain will go on. But the majority of nodes, they're going to say that this is the true chain now and erase that entire transaction. That happens, and so it is tough when I hear purist arguments and things, because then the other argument is we technically even NFTs on Ethereum that are quote unquote, I can store my cold wallet. The image can change, because it's just tied to a server unless it's on Bitcoin. Okay, so if you mint the image on Bitcoin, you can do that, right? And then that image is locked there, into Satoshis through or I think it's ordinals, right? That allows that to happen. But so again, you could sit there and there's different levels of arguments that you could sit there and say and all I care about is what most people are going to accept. And I truly believe that the majority of people are going to be totally fine letting Veve house their stuff. I still want that the ability, if you so if you want to take it off and put it in cold storage there. But and you said it perfectly before, Rain. This is what's needed for mainstream adoption is the way Veve's structured there. So
agreed.
There's I just want to kind of go over, at least in different aspects, what Veve said before about socials being a safe and respectful place and have zero tolerance for verbal harassment. That obviously can only really be enforced on virtual, like on Twitter, on YouTube, on anything on socials. What has your guys' experience been in real life where Veve can't just go in and say oh, you're being uncool, we have to block you? What has your experience been in real life about people? Are they mostly good? Do you have a lot of fudders in real life? Or is it a mixed bag? Let me know.
In real life, I think part of the reason is because people are able to argue, especially on the YouTube comments, and you don't know who they are. So the anonymity factor, right? In real life, people tend to be a lot more agreeable because they're fully doxxed in real life or mostly doxxed when they're standing in front of you. When it comes to crypto. So most of the arguments I've seen and most of the bad behavior in the arguments I've seen happens from accounts where they're not using their real name arguing on Twitter. So essentially the whole mask problem. When people are wearing masks, their behavior is usually much worse than it would be if they're not wearing a mask.
Yeah, right. Because there's no fear of repercussions. That society, typical societal norms don't come into play there, right? I mean, because at some point, when you have confrontations like that and you're extremely aggressive, that's when violence can occur, and so people that's just the truth of it, right? And so that's where I think that comes into play when people, how they act in person with other people, right? They're a lot more reserved and the gloves come off when there's that anonymity because there is no fear of reprisal or things. And so, yeah, I would agree with Rain that there's a lot more toxicity in general on social media. And even when you are doxxed, it's interesting, the levels, right? When you're undoxxed, I think that people in general can tend to be way more toxic. If you are doxxed, you can still be toxic, right? And we have examples of that that I think that we could all name.
I'm toxic.
Not the definition of toxic that I'm thinking of, right? But yeah, but then in person, I think that tones down even more so. And now, I haven't had a lot of interactions, in person with people who are extremely frustrated about Veve. So I can't speak to, what those interactions have been because I go to those events, like Decon and stuff, and the people there, they're paying to be there. They're excited. And so, and those events are extremely fun. And it's awesome to go to those because it's rejuvenating. You get to be around like-minded people who are also excited and they're collecting and their experiences, how they got in and make these friendships and things. And so it's every time one of those events happen, there's this bullish sentiment that then enters into crypto Twitter or, Veve Twitter or whatever, because everyone's just pumped from that. And they're showing pictures and things. So in real life, I can't speak to like really having conversations with people who are extremely upset about Veve. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of the fudders are ever there because they can't afford to go because they live in their mom's basement. No, that's probably part of the reason. Part of the reason might be that they're just not going to go to a Veve event. They'll just troll from Twitter and from YouTube comments, right? But they're not going to actively go. Or they can't afford to go, which is a funner answer. Funner. New word.
So
I definitely got me to laugh.
I mean, it's super easy to talk about the misfortunes of others, especially when we're in such a privileged position. Optimus Prime once said that the greatest weakness of most humans is their hesitancy to tell others how they love them while they're still alive. Do you agree with that? Or is there something else that humans struggle with, which is more crippled?
Yeah, I don't know that would be the greatest thing, right? So I like Optimus Prime, and whoever the writer is that wrote that was keying in on, okay, truth. Is it the greatest truth? No. But I think, gosh, talking about the greatest truth, I'd have to give that some thought on what a greater truth is than that. That's just like a good truth.
Agreed. And man, one of the things that I just love about you, Randy, it is uncanny the amount of quotes that you were able to pull out.
True.
And with like any situation, you're like, so there's this movie and this one character says this one thing, and I'm just like, how do you remember? Like, what repository are you pulling that out of? Because it's literally for so many different scenarios. Super funny. I love that. Yeah, but I'm gonna agree with Rain there. Like, yeah.
So I used to in 2016, everyone just like, or up until in the military years, like 2012 to 2016, everyone would just be like, Chavez, why are you so heckin' weird, bro? I'm like, I don't know. I just, I like certain things, and it was just fun. We would have these things where one would be like a cat paw where they were carrying something like a cat paw, and I would smack it out of their hands. Another thing would be like pew 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 pew. I would just like pretend to have finger guns and point it at them. But it wasn't until 2017 I was dating this girl, super into psychology. She wasn't a doctor yet. She was just studying these things, and she said, "Wow, that's like a marker of like high intelligence. I think, like, to be able to reference that." And so I went deep down the rabbit hole and super looked into it. I was like, okay, is having references the same as, I don't know, is it a marker of higher intelligence? And it wasn't. It was just like, oh, that's just the way you think. It's like when Yoda talks, where he's like, we confront you with a level of Jedi Knight, the council does. Like, it's like, all right, he's speaking in an incorrect way, but that's just the way he speaks. Like, it just happens to be the way my brain is wired. So there's nothing special about it. I've tried to look at it. It's just the way that I think, and I can relate to people. But speaking of which, something else I want to ask you guys, because you guys have this and I don't. As I've gotten older, I've just noticed a difference in a couple of groups of people. One of them is, I think, people like yourselves that have come from humble beginnings, have made their wealth incrementally. And then another subsection of that is people that have inherited their wealth, and just a lot of times, in my opinion, in my experiences, those people are not as good or fun to be around. So how are you guys raising like your kids to be like complete people, while also knowing that they're going to inherit a good amount of money, whether it be through OMI, through Veve, through other investments? Because that's a really hard thing to do.
My kids are not going to inherit any money here. None. So they'll get what they get while I'm alive. They'll get no funds. Hopefully I'll be able to pass on a lot of wisdom to them. And that's what they get from me, which is far more valuable than money, because with understanding, you can make a lot of money. But if you read The Millionaire Next Door, you realize the trap that setting your kids up for life is, and you will devastate their future to 2/3 of the population. 1/3 of the population won't matter. You can give them $1 billion. They'll still use it well, and it won't hurt them at all. 2/3 of people, it'll devastate their futures, and they'll become dependent on it, and they'll stop in their personal growth and development, which I refuse to do to my kids. So they're getting nothing. So I could be worth $10 billion and they might get like $5,000. Oh, dad died. Here's your $5,000. The trustee, and they'll be like, what? And it's like, I'll have them remind them, I told you all along that this is all you're getting. So.
Yeah, I agree with Rain in that, like, one of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm reading financial literacy books to my kids. Like, they're 7 and 3, teaching them like the importance of like saving and really understanding the cost of things. I think that's one of the greatest things that I can give my kids is true understanding and financial literacy, because like it's just human nature. If you are just given something, you just don't value it like you do when you've had to earn it. That's just, it truly is in the human psyche. Like, even good people, like, now people can still use those, like Rain said, like there's going to be a group of people who will still use those funds wisely, but they still won't appreciate it, like if they had to earn it. And that's where, for me, like, so one of the things that I'm doing is I have a 529 savings plan, college savings plan for my kids, right, that I put into. But then on top of that, I'm also in a Coinbase account putting purchasing some crypto tokens, because ultimately I'm like, I feel like those are gonna, and they have today well outperformed the 529 plan. But I'm not telling my kids about it, right? And basically I'm going to be like, you're paying for college things, they're going to take out loans, they're going to do all of that, and then at the end of that, right, I'm going to say, hey, we're gonna pay this off for you, right? So they've struggled through all that and worked through that, and then and if they get scholarships and things like that, then I'm going to say, hey, well, this will go towards, I'm not just giving you this money, it's going towards either the purchase of a home as a down payment to help with that. You're still going to have to purchase this home, or it's going to go towards a business that you want to start. And I'm going to become an investor in your business, whatever that is. If you look at what Warren Buffett did, and I think that this is so telling, like, have you ever heard of like any scandals with any of Warren Buffett's kids? Does that ever come up?
I haven't heard of them.
No, right?
If it's happened, I haven't heard of it. No.
But you have it like Paris Hilton, right? You have heard of like all of these other like very wealthy families and their kids, and they just run amok. They do all these things. It's because wealth has just been given to them. But like one of the things that that Warren Buffett did is he's like, I'm gonna give you, I can't remember how much it was. It might have been $1 million or something to start a nonprofit. So you pick something, or a charity, you pick something that you are passionate about, and you can lead this company, and it will either succeed or fail based on that, right? But like, and so like he gave them that role to find something that they were passionate about, but like wasn't just giving them money to give them money, right? And buying them things. And so, yeah. And if my kids want a car, I'll go in half with them on things like that. I'm not going to make them pay for everything, but I want, like, I'm definitely going to be like, I'll meet you halfway, so that they learn the value of saving and what it is to work, and what it is to, like, what money really is and how much it costs, And I'd love to see that with my daughter, because she used to, we take her to the store, right? And she's like, I want this candy. And we're like, no, we're not buying it for you. Or I want this toy. And she just threw these fits, And so then we started saying, like, okay, well, if you want this toy, you can start doing some chores around the house, and we'll pay you some money, and then you can save up and you can buy this toy. And so initially, right, she would get enough money, and then she'd go and she'd buy the first thing that she saw at the store. She's like, I have enough money for this. I want it. And she'd buy it. But no fits, right? But then what started to happen is now she's like, I want this. And we're like, well, okay, like, you have this much money in your account. Do you want to use it for that? And she's like, no, I think I want to save it for something else, right? And it's completely stopped the fits. And she's starting to learn, right? So those are the types of things, Randy, for me. And I agree with Rain. Like, there is a massive, and Rain and I have talked about this beforehand, and he's just like, there's this massive misaligning of incentives when your kids think that they're going to inherit wealth from you, right? Because they're like, like say dad's worth $40 million. I'm like, well, I need that $40 million left. Dad's done. He doesn't got much life left. Let's just kind of quicken that for him. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's a big misalignment as to, like, instead of just enjoying time with their parents, they're like, I can't wait for my parents to pass away so I can inherit that wealth.
They kind of start spending against it, and then they end up with like the debts coming due, right? And then they're like, oh my gosh, I need dad to die so I can get the inheritance. And then, you know, in some cases, the kids have helped kill the parent, right? And it's like, oh God, like you want to give your kids an incentive to kill you, go ahead. Like, I'm not, right? So it's like, hey, while I'm alive, then you get goodies. Well, when I'm dead, I'm sorry. It's all going to XYZ charity. So I haven't figured out the charity yet. It'll be a good charity, that low overhead, something, right? Something cool. Maybe some kind of education opportunities for kids that wouldn't otherwise have it, or something like that.
That's a good point. I've recently, a few months ago, before I started this work vacation thing, or I guess years ago, in the veterinary field, I networked with a lot of people that had done, hey, we do work on behavioral issues with dogs. We're dog trainers. And I had worked with them a lot, so I knew how to train dogs. And when I came home one day and my friends were gardening in the back and the dog was like super digging up a lot of stuff, I was like, you know, he's kind of digging a lot. It's kind of ruining up the yard. And they're like, well, no, you got to let him be a dog. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, this dog isn't a working dog. They're not doing they're not helping the blind or helping, the disabled. It's just a normal dog. Okay, maybe you should. And it reminded me of a quote of this guy called Professor Ozpin from Ruby. And this woman named Professor Glinda says, like, hey, these children that just like ruin this cafeteria, they're supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. And he said, like, and they will be. But right now they're still children. Why not let them play the part? After all, that's not a role that they'll have forever. How do you determine whether it's like, hey, you should be an adult in this scenario versus like just a kid, let them have fun? How do you discern which way to go and which way to discipline?
I've had to look at that problem a lot. It's called parentification. And one of the challenges, if you parentify them too early, is then later as they're older, they try to become a kid because they didn't get to live out their childhood. And so you almost like freeze their development when you take away their childhood. So the right balance is hard, and there's no instruction manual on being a parent. You kind of muddle your way through it with hopefully good intentions, and hopefully your kids don't end up too screwed up. So I can say there's value. Like I started having my kids early. I grew up pretty religious, and it was like, oh, get married young and get started on your family right away. And I did. And okay, so with good intentions, but the truth is, had I waited longer, I would have known more about how to be a better parent. And so like my kids are hopefully okay. We'll see. We'll really know in like 10 or 15 years overall how they turn out. Right. But when they do get parentified, then they end up freezing their development and trying to live out their childhood.
Well, Rain, I'm going to contradict you. You say that if you were older, you would be a better parent. I don't know if I can say that for me, because I didn't start having kids until I was older. I mean, there's just no rule book there, right? And you're trying to like, you look at like how your parents, like really what you have is how your parents raised you, right? And maybe your friends' parents and how they treated your friends or something like that. That's the examples that you have to go off of, right? And then as you get older, you can read books and or watch videos or something like that. But like, there's a lot of times where it's just like something happens, and in the moment, you just kind of make this like react. You have to make a decision, right? And I'll say this: my wife is good at. I think that I am a little bit more on the like no nonsense side of things, where I'm like, no, you got to knock that off. That's not acceptable. And my wife's like, yo, they're kids. They're going to act like that. And I was like, not my kids type thing, But like, I mean, look, I'm not some sort of crazy strict parent on things, but like, I'm like, hey, like we're in this restaurant. Like you're not running around the restaurant. I know that like maybe you've been cooped up or something, but like we're here, like social norms. Like I'm not going to just let you run amok here. You're going to sit by me, and you're not going to stand up and start grabbing and touching the top of someone's head behind us. like those type of things. I'm like, I know they're a kid, but we got to teach them early on that those type of things aren't acceptable. And then there are other times where it's just like, yeah, like they're going to fight, they're going to get into these things, and we'll have to sit down and have conversations. But again, I think that my wife is a good balance where she's kind of more along the lines of let kid be kids, and she'll rein me in and be like, yeah, calm down a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So, but I don't know, man, just like Rain said, at the end of the day, like, you'll try to do your best, but then they're also their own individuals, and they're going to make decisions for themselves. And we'll see how that all turns out. All we can do is try to do our best, with them, and without a guidebook that we don't necessarily have that guidebook, and each kid is way different, like my son right now, man, he's so here's something. This just happened like 2 nights ago. But my son was talking and he's just like, nom, 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 nom. I'm eating this guy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're eating this guy? What's happening? And then my daughter comes in. She's like, yeah, he just put a Lego head in his mouth, and I was like, hey, open your mouth. And then he's like, and swallows it. And I'm like, don't swallow it, like, stop it, And so I freak out at him. I'm like, you cannot swallow Legos, man. I'm like, that is a choking hazard. Like, that's so much more dangerous and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you understand you're not going to be doing that anymore, right? And he's like, yeah. And then I turn around and my daughter's like, Dad, he put another Lego in his mouth. And I'm like, hey, spit it out. And he swallows it again. And so I had to take him, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So now we bought him these little chew toy things to be like, hey, maybe he just needs to have something in his mouth, but like this won't choke him. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know, man. Like, there's just things that come in, and it's like that is not in any book of how to handle those things, and you just try to go with the flow, and who knows how he'll turn out, right? But I don't know. It's fun things.
That's where the guy who made Lifesavers came in. The guy who made Lifesavers, he back in the day, like 100 years ago, whatever, he children would choke and die on these hard candies.
Yeah.
So then what he did was for the people that don't know, it sounds like he made these candies called Lifesavers, and they had a hole in the middle. So if they were to get caught in the throat, the children could still breathe. And it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, unfortunately, Lifesavers are kind of like out of being cool and being, whatever. There are, I think for the most part, children have to go through these really weird times of tween and young adult eras where, like, for me back in my day, it was, I think, like the choking game. It was, hey, let's I think our generation invented, let's not get drunk the normal way. Let's pour like a bottle of alcohol in a glass. Let's put like a tampon in the glass, stick it up our bunghole, because the bunghole is one that
is not where I thought that was going.
Yeah, that absorbs alcohol a lot quicker than the normal way of ingesting it, through the mouth. And you can pass a breathalyzer test because it's not, in your respiratory system. So we had just science became a thing, and that's just, we knew how to do certain things. It was wild. And now you have this era where I think for the most part, maybe throughout the last couple hundred years, once per generation, there was one invention that kids had access to that the parents didn't, like whether it was the printing press. Okay, now we have books, we can all read, to, okay, well, now we have a radio, we can listen to things throughout the country. Now we have TV, we have television. But it wasn't until the internet where in the 90s and 2000s, up until then, you just had one thing. And then suddenly kids had opinions and blogs and websites from everywhere in the world, and anyone could have that. It wasn't regulated. So people in like the parents that were born in the 60s and 70s that had kids in the 90s, they didn't really know how to go and adapt to that. And now, like, people that were born in the 80s and 90s, like ourselves, we kind of know what's going on. We kind of know all of the websites. Okay, we know there's TikTok, we know there's Snapchat, we know there's all these things. Do you familiarize yourself with these things, or are you just like, okay, this tech is beyond me, I'm not going to focus on what it is? Or do you say like, hey, I'm going to learn what it is just because I have children?
Definitely way more cognizant of social media and a lot of the tools, and trying to research like things that kids can do. I mean, there's some, apps that like can hide things, and then you have those apps that like, is it Snapchat or something, like it posts and then it deletes itself. But then like there's a lot more that like kids who want to, right, they can really, man, they can get themselves into a lot of trouble. There's this documentary that was super powerful called The Social Dilemma, and it talks about the rise of social media and the impact it's had on kids' brains. And I mean, it's not good. Like, yeah, too long didn't read, not good. And in fact, a lot of the CEOs and leaders of these companies are like, I refuse to let my kids cannot use social media. Won't let them use Instagram, won't let them use Facebook. And they're running these companies and they're like, no. And they talk about how it is, the whole goal is to keep you on this app, right? So just constant dopamine hits and get you. And who's done that? I've done doom scrolling, right? And you're just like, I was just on this freaking phone for like an hour and accomplished nothing. Nothing happened. This is terrible, right? What is that doing to our brains? And this is like a fully developed brain. But like things like what I've seen now, I mean, my kids have to worry about is like there's these like location trackers where people can track their friends. And then like I saw this with like my brother's niece, where she was all super depressed at this family party that we were having because she saw on this app that all her friends were congregated at this one location, which meant they were all together, and that she had not been invited or told about this. And then later found out that it was this party or something like that. And she was instantly aware that she had been excluded from something, and that's devastating to a kid's psyche, right? Like all of these extra things. So like for me and my kids, I've already like, and there's tools that are coming out, like there's like a Gab watch and some other things where kids can have access to certain things, but not be exposed to a lot of other just, there's bad people out there, man, in the world that are, like out there to do not good things. So, yeah, I definitely am. I'm trying to keep up to date, but I do feel like I'm falling behind on stuff, where there's a new thing that just pops up and I'm like, what is this? I've got to learn this new thing. This is crazy. Yeah. Kumo says The Social Dilemma was eye-opening. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. If you got kids, I was blown away. And again, just to hear like how they've structured like the algorithms and what the whole intent of these social media platforms to make money and to get attention. And I feel like it's tied to like why our society, like our kids, like such a high propensity for like ADHD, short attention spans, is like all of these things, right? We're just like so much, it's very hard to keep people's attention on things. It's wild. Yeah.
So that kind of goes and reminds me of, I remember there was, well, I'll go over, I guess, this reference that I kind of know. It was someone in Australia that had said like, my daughter, and he wrote this article saying like, I don't understand my daughter. I can't connect with my daughter. And he was maybe in his 30s, 40s, whatever. And his daughter was a teenager. And it's like, they like this music that I don't understand. They like this, music is not the same as it was. It's all trash. It's all like, boys dancing, and the music is all auto-tuned. It's all computers. And then eventually it kind of, the author himself kind of flips the switch and says like, my daughter and her friends were so obsessed with this band. I think it was One Direction. I was like, they're so obsessed with this band. And they had this insane ideas of to call the radio stations to get them to play this band that they really loved more. And it was so stupid. And it's just like, what is the point of all this? But then eventually he realized like, my daughter's got these radio stations that never played this type of music before, to play this type of music. And so then I realized that they literally changed the culture of what everybody experienced, at least in Australia. And he said like he was so proud of her. It's like they literally did something that changed the childhoods of certain people. They changed what people listen to, and that's something that adults struggle to do. They're like, "Hey, I have this cool idea. Come listen," and most people don't. And his daughter, like and her friends, as teenagers, had this idea. I forget who the quote was by, but it said like, um, "It's often the I don't really remember the quote. But it's often that the people that struggle to try to light brush fires in people's minds, that's the only people that tend to change the world." How do you go and determine which things are like, hey, this is probably a good idea, I'm going to push you towards this, versus this is probably stupid, where my parents are like, I can't wait till this Pokemon stuff is over, this is dumb. And that's what helped make me a millionaire. That's what helped make me super successful in life. And that's what brings me some of the most happiness. How do you go and determine which stuff is right? Like, hey, let's push my kids towards this, versus like, oh God, this is probably horrible, and then most likely maybe you're wrong in the future.
Well, funny enough, I think everyone, every middle-aged man, right? Shout out to who was that again? Let's call us. But growing up, our parents were like, "Don't play video games; it's gonna rot your brain," right? I'm sure we all experienced that. And now look, right now there's like video gamers who make millions of dollars. So I think it's tough to predict the future, and what I'm trying to do with my kids is be open to to push them to experience things. I think that's important, right? I mean, that's like the whole innovation and being creative, and like being like teaching them that it's okay to fail. So like whatever that is, right? Yeah, and trying to be open with that and understanding like I definitely don't know everything, but I mean, so right now, I'm a huge soccer fan, and I know that like I have a lot of Boston stuff, but a huge Chelsea fan and a huge Real Madrid fan. I like love soccer. I love playing. I played soccer all growing up. Watch it all the time. And so I'm just like, oh man, I want my daughter to get into soccer, and I can just kind of live vicariously through her. And like I put her out there, man, and she's doing like cartwheels, and like one of her friends falls down and she just like picks her up and gives her a hug, and then they just start talking, and I'm like, they're dribbling right past you, stop them, And then I tried to financially incentivize her to where I was like, if you score a goal, I'll give you $1. And I mean, that worked for like a little bit. It was actually like one of my favorite moments where she took the ball right from like their goal and dribbled all the way down and scored. And like literally instead of celebrating with her team or anything like that, she like ran up to me and she's like, "You owe me $1." And I was like, I do owe you $1. I was all super stoked, but like I just started to see kind of her interest wane in it, right? And I was like I'm not going to continue to force this if this isn't something that at least right now she's into. But then another thing that I really enjoyed, like I grew up and I competed in gymnastics, right? Did a lot of competitions around the state and did well. And so then in college, like I took gymnastics courses, and then I ended up teaching those college courses, and was like an instructor for a little bit and a judge. And so then I was like, hey, I'd like to try getting my daughter into gymnastics. And she's taken to it. She's done really well, and she really enjoys it, and we're going down that road, and we'll see how long she does that. But I guess like that's a long way of kind of saying that I'm definitely going to provide some structure, but be open to the fact that the number one, like I'm not perfect. I'm not going to know everything. And so a lot of times I'm going to be like, well, let's try this and let's see where this goes. Right. Then start asking the questions. Do you still enjoy this? Do you like this? Where do you think this leads? Because another funny conversation that I was just having about gymnastics is I'm like, the gymnastics place wants my daughter to go up to this next level, and this next level. So I mean, this is one of the reasons I can't go to like around the Comiverse a lot of times, right? Is I got to take her to these gymnastics, but like they want her to go now. Like right now, she goes 2 days a week, 2.5 hours each day. So they want to bump her up to 3 days for 2.5 hours, and then two competitions a year. And I'm like, she's 7 years old, like, and I just said, what's the future of gymnastics? Like, I love gymnastics, but like, she could maybe get like a college scholarship, but like, there's no pro gymnastics pro gymnasts, right? Like they can become coaches, but like, how much do the coaches make and stuff?
Mhm.
Um, and but then, interestingly enough, one of the highest paid college athletes currently is a gymnast. I just learned this, right? The gymnast for LSU, and she just has ever since NIL, and I was like, huh. So again, like, here was my mindset of like, look, I'll let her do gymnastics and things, but we're not going to go super serious into this, because what's the end game here? Like, where's this going to lead to? Like, financially, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense, because it's a lot of money and a lot of time just to get a college scholarship. It's almost like I'd rather just, again, help pay for college scholarship, but then, have you do something that could lead to a career. But I'm opening my eyes and being like, wow, there's a lot of money if you're good at gymnastics, and fit some criteria. You can apparently make some money. You got something. What is this?
So the guy whom you guys met over a month or two ago, his daughter went to Ohio State and happened to get a scholarship to Ohio State for gymnastics, completely free education, no debt, and she happened to be talented enough to get that full ride, but not talented enough to go towards the Olympics. There is a chance that if a person is good enough to go in and have the chance to go to the Olympics, they have to be good at, like, I think two or three things, but like a minimum of two things, if not three. If they're only good at one thing, they won't be able to go. But just to be able to do that, and just to even compete, even if we don't win, is probably a good opportunity. Just get the confidence, and again, on top of that, you'll get a free ride to anywhere, like whether it's LSU or it's Ohio State, Alabama, whatever, in that area. It's just probably a good idea. But again, that's just me having that, I think I can do anything, and I was held back by my parents, so other kids can do anything, and maybe that's not the case. But if somebody that was already one of the highest paid actors at LSU,
one of the hard things about is sports for kids are super good for their development, because it teaches them how to work hard and to accomplish success, right? So success really comes from being willing to pay a price that others aren't willing to pay. And when they learn that lesson early, which sports is a great vehicle for them to learn that lesson, because school doesn't teach it super well, but sports can, and gymnastics can, that carries over in their life. Like when I was young in my 20s, I noticed all these pro athletes, pro baseball players were going into business, and they were really successful. And I thought, oh, it's just because they had a name and everyone knows that they were a pro baseball player, so they just do business with them. I later learned that the reality is they learned how to, success isn't something that just happens to you. It's something that you achieve because you're willing to make sacrifices the normal person isn't willing to make. And you're willing to push harder and to work smarter and learn some lessons, so you become good at success. It's a skill that you learn how to become good at. And so people that were really successful in sports, they learned how to do that. And that applies to other things that you do in your life. So I learned that through my later 20s and early 30s, seeing those patterns. I was like, oh, so there's some value in early sports, though the sacrifice from the parents is great, especially when the mom works and the dad works, because like, how do you get them there and like get them back? And so you end up sacrificing not only your career time, but also your leisure time. Plus the financial investment is really, really big. And kids, like, they're like, oh, thank you. Once, maybe you'll get that once. So, where is the balance in that? I don't know.
Well, so, I mean, like, I can speak from experience, right? Like, so when I was doing gymnastics, I literally went to the gym Monday through Friday from 2:30 to 9, and I wasn't like, I mean, again, I started doing, like taking I think I took third overall in state, one year. And they were like, hey, we want to move you up and things. And I was like, I'm like, how much more am I going to be going and doing these things? And it was costing my parents a lot of money. And honestly, they were just like, hey, like, we feel like you have the talent, like that there's like, we can get you this point to where, and there was a gymnast at the time at that gym that was like, that had been asked to try out for the Olympic team, for the US Olympic team, right? Like, so the gym had success in bringing people to that level. But I just remember one day, like I went to school and all my buddies were talking about this epic birthday party that had happened. One of my really good friends. And I was like, yo, like, why wasn't I invited? And he just said, oh, I just knew that you'd be at gymnastics. And that's when I sat down and I kind of, thought to myself, I'm like, do I really want to make those sacrifices? Like Rain talked about, do I want to sacrifice a lot of friendships and a lot of fun parties and other things to focus on trying to be this really competitive gymnast? And the answer was no. I love, like, I'm too social of a person. And I just was like, I don't want to give that up. But it is true that those people who are willing to make those sacrifices, those are the ones who then at the end, right, like, are the ones who get to that top tier of whatever it is, whether it's in business, in sports. Because I look at some of these people in the business world that just they just work nonstop. They start their own business and they're working 20 hours a week. They're giving up and they're sacrificing a lot of family time. And some of those people, they get divorced, like kids disown them and stuff, but that's their goal. And I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong. That's not my place, right? But for me, it's not the thing that I want, right? And so, it's very interesting. Man, life is crazy. It's so many curveballs and things, but it's fun to discuss these things,
That gets hard just because you have. I mean, for me, that doesn't have any kids. Like, I sacrificed most of my 20s to get good at finance, to get good at making money, and yeah, I missed out on a couple of things that, probably really fun things that did happen that I missed out on. But now I get to do relatively whatever I want. And I was on call with this person yesterday, and it's like, dude, you're living the dream. You got no kids, you got no wife, you can do whatever you want. I was like, yeah, and maybe if I would have been a little more open, I might be married now. And there's a quote by Stan Pines from Gravity Falls, and where he's just like, he says a joke, and he's just like, because marriage is terrible. And obviously it was meant for the joke of the show, and obviously marriage can be a beautiful thing. Love is a beautiful thing, but it's to each their own. I think each person has to go and decide whether it's for them or not.
I would say marriage is an institution. Like, most people in marriages aren't necessarily happier than overall, I think slightly happier than single. But like, I was married to somebody who was so fun to be around for 10 years. And thankfully that ended. And I'm really glad it ended, even though it ended in total flames. Second time around, like, I went to really study relationships for like years because I didn't just want a marriage. I wanted a great relationship. And so I'd say, gosh, there's a lot to study about great relationships, because marriages can be worse than being single. It can be like worse isolation, because like, you're married to somebody, but you guys aren't friends yet. You're still married. And so you don't get any of that companionship from them. But then you feel weird about going and trying to get it from someone else, because that's called cheating. So it's like, so a great relationship, I think, at least that was my goal. Whether it's someone else's, they can decide. I hate the word should. Should is one of my least favorite words, because then that conveys some kind of judgment. But that was my goal, is to find a way to have a great relationship.
I think, I don't know. I'm a social person. I have to be around people. And in fact, like, if not that I can't be around myself. In fact, I actually oftentimes will go to a movie by myself, and I love it. I love going to movies, by myself and just enjoying that time with myself. But at the end of the day, like I do love being around people. I get energy from being around other people, right? And so for me, and that's all I can speak to, right? Like I I'm not going to pretend that I can sit there and say like what it's going to mean to everyone or individual people. But for me, I think that marriage, um, if it's done right, where it's truly like a partnership, um, it's very fulfilling. And I'll tell you what, kids, there has been no greater joy for me than having kids, and half the time I'm miserable.
No greater joy and no greater pain. But
Yeah,
I guess there's some greater pains, but it can be a big pain.
it is and there's a lot of sacrifice involved with that. And I think that that's where, when you start putting like someone else's needs, so for me, again, marriage, like when you're putting someone else's needs ahead of your own, like that selflessness, like that develops there. And there's a feeling there that you can get that from serving others, working with charities or like whatever, helping your neighbor out. Right. Like, but the other thing about like a marriage is like they know all of your weaknesses, right? Like, so there's someone who like knows all of your weaknesses and is still willing to accept you. That's a pretty powerful thing, right? And then those like kids come along and they're little rascals, and all you have, the only person you can blame is yourself. You're like, well, I'm the one who freaking brought them in this world, and not only that, they got my genes, So a lot of their traits and things that they're doing, they probably got from me. And so yeah, but that sacrifice, it's pretty powerful. And so that's where I'm, from my point of view, I just think that marriage and then having family, like it's this deeper joy that I never had being single. Yeah.
Randy, you're at a good age. Like I think in today's society, the ideal age for a man to get married is somewhere between 35 to 45. Because it's best to get your finances in order to some degree. Not that you won't continue to work on your business, but it does increase your options as far as like who you can attract for a longer term partner. Secondly, you've learned a lot, right? So men are required to know a lot, and in relationship, women expect you to know a lot, and that's just how they're hardwired. And so, like, what did I know when I got married at 24? I knew a little bit. I was young, and it worked out okay. I had some kids, went through a blazing divorce later. That was less than fun, and there was a lot I had to learn about relationships. And one of the early long-term relationships I jumped into, and then we got married like, I don't know, like 9 months later or something short. And I was too young to know how to really sort and look for some things that would have been big red flags that I probably would have made a different decision on marrying that first time. The second time, I wasn't going to make that mistake again. I really dug into research and reading and learning about why relationships fail and what makes them fail and how to attract and select better. I like to think I did much better the second time around. And I think the evidence of that is like how much we enjoy each other's company and get along. Cool. But like, there was a lot for me to learn that my parents did not show me about having that kind of relationship. So you're still young and you're working on your business success. Like I look forward to seeing what OMI does for you. You went so all in on it, but Randy, what I've always admired about you is like you went all in on Pokemon at like good time. And then you went all in on Tesla at a good time when everyone was saying how stupid you were. And then you've gone all in on OMI, and we're still during that period where people are saying how stupid you are about it. Just look at Randy's track record, right? And like of all the projects in crypto, like I don't believe in going all in. If I were to go all in on one project, OMI would be that project, because I see the risk of failure with still huge upside. Like the balance between those is so juicy. So if I were to go all in, OMI would be that project. Now I'm like, man, Randy just has great feel, like he just internal intuition or something that guides him towards good, like the right timing when everyone says he's crazy on bets that have worked out really well for him. And I don't see that OMI's, I see OMI's going to be another bet that works out really well for you, is my guess. And so like you're on track and you're still very young and you're learning a lot about relationships. Like if I had to do all over again, I could talk to my younger self. I'd be like, don't get married till you're at least 35. Work on your career, growing your financial expertise and other things, learning a lot about relationships, date a whole lot of girls and, learn what they're about and how to manage relationships better and study that so I can become good at that. And then, I'd get married time between 35 to 45. And then I'd go Elon Musk and have 70 kids or what? Just kidding.
Yeah. I feel a little bad about some of the women I've dated over the past 14 years because I've often dated older, mostly dated older, except for 2 girls. And in the last 14 years, I've only dated 2 girls in their 20s. The rest have been in their 30s and 40s, a couple in their 50s. But I was a little. If you take a look at dating the same way you do as martial arts, it would be it'd be a lot easier if you knew what type of level they were. Oh, okay, this person's a blue belt or a black belt or a white belt. You can gauge where they are in martial arts versus dating. You don't really understand until at least maybe a couple dates in. Sometimes people do this thing called masking where they try to act really cool and then suddenly it all comes out at once that they're a little crazy, guys and girls. And it's unfortunate. Well, when I was younger and in much better shape, I got actually less women than I have the last few years, where I've been just like a small public figure, and certain wallet addresses are out there and certain success levels are out there. I'm always very upfront with people, saying okay, I really don't want kids, at least not right now. So Colin says, what's the one question that people don't ask that they should more often? I think you don't really get anywhere with people, or where you don't really get to know the person unless you know them in how they handle certain situations. Like, for example, for investing, I didn't really, if I were to see an Elon Musk interview from 2013, 2014, and none of the really bad times had happened yet, I was like, okay, well, I know him when things are going okay for him. And then for 6 years Tesla kind of traded sideways. Everyone was really negative for him. I didn't invest in Tesla up until everyone was negative about him. He had Tesla Q happening. All the people that were on CNBC, they were saying oh, it's overvalued, he's crazy. And I didn't know the way he would handle stress until he had to go through a bunch of stress. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people, they make decisions based on what happens in the good times, and they don't know how their partner is going to react in the bad times until they happen. And hopefully bad times never happen. Hopefully things stay good for people forever. But that's just not the case. When people say when marriage till death do us part, for better or worse, sickness and in health, sometimes you don't really know how they're going to react to that up until that happens. And by then it's too late. You've been married for 7-8 years. For younger men, yeah, that's hard, because I think part of me, I love rom-coms. I love there's the one with what's her name from Miss Congeniality and the guy from Deadpool.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock.
Reynolds.
Yeah, this is called The Proposal. And they kind of start off hating each other, but by the end, they learn to love each other because they learn stuff about each other in a forced enclosure. And I love that type of story, the fish out of water stories. But a lot of times it's just, and it's not just one sex, it's people in general. That there's a quote from Stu Pickles from Rugrats where Dee Dee's talking to him about money because Chaz wins the lottery. And she says I don't think, it's, he's that different. And Stu says, well, money changes people, Deed. And then, you see that in real life where, okay, you're one type of person at one success level, and then you're a different type of person at another success level. And that happens for both men and women. And people want what they want at one level, and they want what they want at another level, or what they can get at another level. And it's really hard. And it's just, I don't know how to navigate those waters yet. And I'm 33 and I have a decently good amount of experience with the opposite sex. So I don't know how people are expected to navigate those waters at like 2022. It's just really hard.
Yeah, and you have a lot, like your ability to reach a better mate at 22. Like women are taking a huge chance on you when you marry that young, because your success isn't proven. You've got hopefully potential, but it doesn't really show. So as you get older, like you show whether you're going to be something or not. And so you have more of a track record that they can gauge. Not that you can't all of a sudden find your way at 55 or 60 like Colonel Sanders did with Kentucky Fried Chicken. But usually there's some markers there. And so like as I was studying relationships, there's this guy that has this channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars. His name is Rich Cooper. And he says that women show up at the finish line and celebrate with the winners. And there's a lot of that, right? Because then they have to take less risk on you. They, see if you've already kind of figured out a lot. And it's not just money, because I know some people are like, oh, I'm going to get lots of money, then I'll get all the women. And they get lots of money and they realize they don't have the social skills, that all their money gives them about 20 seconds of conversation with the woman. But the woman's like, gosh, this guy has no substance. He's boring. And they're like, I don't care. His Lamborghini's cool. I'll take some pictures with it. But like, yeah, it bought them 20 seconds of an open mind with the girl that they then like blew the 20 seconds with. So there's some other skills that are important in there on top of like financial success. Women, when they look at things, really there's three areas we have to get good at. It's money, muscles, and social dynamics. So it's like the ideal age for men to get married is 35 plus. Why? So they hopefully get their money figured out. Social dynamics and understanding. Women expect you to understand women. Well, that doesn't come natural to us. That comes through experience. So they expect you to get some certain things about them, because a lot of their hardwiring on how to interact with men comes as hardwiring. Men's understanding of how to interact with women actually comes through experience, not through hardwiring. And so you have to go through the experience threshold of like learning how to interact with women, because they are so different than men. If you interact with women how you interact with men, you will fail. And then the third thing is, muscles, right? Like fitness level.
So I'm going to interject here and just offer a little bit different point of view or some thoughts. I think there's something to be said about a relationship, and like I don't disagree with a lot of what Rain said, honestly. But my thing is this: like, the women that are there at the finish line, that just want the finished product, I feel like they're a lot harder to be deeply committed. Like I look at those relationships where like they do take that risk early on with you, right? And they're just like, hey, like I like who you are now, and then when you become rich, right? Like they were there before that happened, before the success. That's substantial. The women who are there after the success, you're always going to question their motives, right? And so that's something that is a risk that men have to take in saying, okay, well now I have the money, now I've got the muscles, now I've got this social dynamic, and now I do have my choice here. But the problem is how many of these are just gold diggers, or like whatever that is. Where if you can find someone early on, there's a lot to be said about going through and struggling through, like being poor together, and like the strength. It can go either way, because money is like the number one reason for divorce, right? So there is that. But then on top of that, like you can find someone who can go through things together in hard times. Man, I just feel like that relationship in general is so much deeper. On top of that, if you're getting married at 35 or older and you want kids, I'm just going to tell you, your energy levels to handle toddlers are not as good as when you're in your mid-20s. I'm just going to throw that out there, right? Speaking from experience, like I didn't have kids until I was older. And I was telling my wife, because my wife was just like, hey, I want to do some things. And I'm like, we got to, like, at some point, though, like, I'm like, I don't want to be grandpa dad. I don't want to be 65 years old. My kid's graduating from high school. You know what I mean? And people are like, "Hey, is that your grandpa?" Like, I don't want that either, right? There's some people that doesn't bother them. But that's just like another.
Elon Musk doesn't seem to mind.
Sure, yeah, he doesn't seem to mind. I mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be. But this is just another perspective of, like different strokes for different blokes, right? Like, I mean, everyone's gonna have like different thought process. But for me, I definitely like. Now, I knew myself. I didn't get married like when I was younger. I was like, I am not like at that maturity level where I can handle being responsible for another adult, And until I was older, then I was like, all right, now I'm kind of ready to settle down. But I got a question. I got a quick question for you guys. We're gonna take this into a fun, and I'm gonna start off. But I would love to hear one of just like your super weird dating experiences. Like you were on this date and you're just like, you walked away and you're like, what just happened? So I'm going to start. This is college, right? Early college years. And one of my good friends from high school, she become, what are they called? Where they do your hair and
A beautician?
Cosmetologist, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, cosmetologist. So she's going to cosmetology school. And she's like, hey, Doc, I want to, I need someone to, like, a real live person to practice on cutting hair. Will you come cut my hair? Will you let me come cut your hair? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I go there, and there's a really cute girl that's cutting, like, hair next to my friend, and I was just like I talked with her just, like, a little bit, but kind of forgot about it. But then a couple of days later, my friend was like, hey, do you remember that girl that was cutting hair next to me? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, she like wants to go on a date with you. She was asking me if I could set you up. Would you be down for that? And I was like, yeah, sure. But let's do it. Right. So I take her on this date, and we're at this restaurant. We're like in the middle of a conversation, and she's just like, oh yeah, hold on just a second. Like we're eating, right? And like she stands up and like starts literally popping every joint in her body, like super sick thud, like pops. It's like, and like it did not sound good. And I'm like eating my food, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, what, why, what is happening? And it probably went on for like 3 minutes. She was like popping toes, like it was the weirdest thing. I was like in the middle of this thing, and she's like, oh, sorry, yeah, I just had to like loosen up. And I was like, okay, and like I had the plan, like we were gonna go like on a hike afterwards, and I was like, nope. I was like, all right, well, I was like, I gotta go, like I got some tests I gotta study for. I just like took her home, and she's like, hey, well, I'd love it if you could give me a call, because my friend had set it up, so I didn't have her number at the time, and so she's like, here's my phone number, and so I just took her number, and she like closed the door, and I just like opened up her trash, and like. And I was like, I am sorry, man, but like that is just, I just have never experienced that before, and that was just too weird for me. That was wild. Yeah.
Do you want weird experiences where I was weird, or weird experiences where the girl was weird, or a little both?
Now that you opened that door, I want both. I know we got to wrap in 12 minutes.
Well, yeah, we can wrap beforehand. I really want to talk to you guys.
I kind of want both. Can I get a short version of both?
Yeah, so short version of both, because as I want to talk to you guys off camera for a bit. There was this girl that I was into that was really into knife play, and I was like, okay, because she was hot, and I wanted to, continue to smash. And normally, a lot of it was just like, oh, cut on the chest and suck like vampire, like whatever it was, and I was like, okay, that's fine, as long as I still get to bang. But she like cut really deep on my leg, and I was bleeding hardcore, and I was like, oh, lightheaded. And then I wake up like, I guess like 7 minutes later, and she's like taking her cigarette lighter out of the car, and I guess that's what woke me up. And she cauterized me, and I was like, and I was like, so like she cut like an artery, and she cauterized it, and that was probably the weirdest one, where she was weird and I had consented, and yeah.
Bro, I like.
That's quite the story.
I'm glad that I went first, man. How do you beat that? What the?
I didn't know knife play was a thing, but now I know.
Yeah.
Gosh, Randy.
So Rain, you go really
Yeah,
quick.
my
Let's go. I
gosh.
want to talk with you guys off camera.
Okay. So I got married pretty young, right? So I was at college. I had been away at the military for a while. I guess I had some experiences when I was in the military. And then, I served a church thing for 2 years. So no girls for 2 years. I come back and I'm going to university. I meet this girl. I get married, right? So then I get re-singled like 2012. And I'm trying to figure out female nature. It's so weird. And I'm on this date. It's like 2014. And I'm really studying female nature, how they're so different from us. And I'm driving this girl. We had a first date and it was going pretty good. And maybe it was even a second date. And I'm driving her back to her place. And she's like, so I don't know if this is going anywhere. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, no big deal. And she's like, oh. So we get a little bit farther towards her house and she goes like this and starts batting her eyes. And so she puts her like elbows like on the median thing in the car, or like the little armrest, and she's batting her eyes at me like the kiss me now. I was like, I'm so confused. She just said, I don't know if this is going anywhere. So I just pull over the car and kiss her. Sure enough, that's exactly what she wanted. I was like, this is such weird behavior. Like, it took me a little bit to figure out, that she was actually just kind of fishing to see if I thought it was going anywhere. When I acted all cool, like, okay, no big deal. Like, all right. And I didn't act needy in any way. She like made her feel super attracted. And so then she just wanted to kiss me. So pulled over and kissed her. And this girl was definitely in her like feminine and definitely in her emotions. Kissed her. And then I dropped her off. And afterwards I was like, that was so weird. Women are so different than us guys. Like, us guys that were like, I don't know if this is going anywhere. Like, we mean it, right? Girl just throwing it out there to see my reaction more. Like, she didn't necessarily mean it. It was to see what kind of reaction I had when I had this confident, like nonchalant, like cool, no big deal. It's like, oh crap, that's so attractive. I want to kiss him. Yeah, it took me like a year to figure out what that even meant. I was like, okay, I think she's giving me kiss me now signal. So I just pulled over and kissed her. I was like, yep, that's the signal she's giving me. That's so weird. Anyway, one of many funny moments.
All right, let's end it here because I want to talk to you guys off camera for a bit, and that'll
awesome.
be good.
Well,
cool. Well, fun chat. We had a great chat about OMI and then all kinds of live stuff. Great when we can do these 4-hour live streams. Usually we can't get Dr. Stuff for like 4 hours. Like his own job can't get him for 4 hours straight.
Well, it was funny because I feel like there were some people here that like maybe came for the Blackpink talk a little too late. They're like, what is this? What is going on? All that
they'll have to rewind it and catch the whole first 2 hours.
Yeah. That's where we got into the real stuff first. But hey, everyone, man, we got 200. Like we've had a steady stream of around 250 to 300 people watching the entire almost 4 hours. That's absolutely wild. The OMI and Veve fam are strong. It's so awesome. So yeah, anyways, hey, we appreciate it. If you guys could again like, subscribe to our channels there, and just continue to support us. And we appreciate you guys, the community and the comments here. Super fun. So we'll see you guys next week, right? I unfortunately again will not be on OMI is my homie for the next 2 episodes because I'm going to be in Germany, in Prague. So going to be traveling worldwide. It's going to be a lot of fun. But continue to just we appreciate everyone who's following us on this new channel as we're growing it, and just appreciate all the Veve fam. So shout out to you guys, and we'll catch you.
I love you guys.
Have a
Bye.
good night.
We love you long time.